So, we're going to call this meeting to order. It is December 17th, 2019. All board members are present except for Andy Holloman, and he is excused. And if I, oh, he's on the phone though, so that's great. And if I could have Dina Mitchell lead us in the flag salute, please. And actually, our student rep is also out sick this evening, so I think there's something going around. The board would like to take this time. I'm honored to acknowledge that we gather today on the traditional land of the Dena'ina people, both past and present. And it is with gratitude that I honor the land itself and the people who have cared for it throughout the generations. We want to welcome you to our meeting and thank you for attending and supporting the work of the Anchorage School District and this board. The mission of the Anchorage School District is educating all students for success in life. The board thanks students, parents, teachers, staff, school business partners, and the entire community for your investment in our district with your time, your talent, and your tax dollars. If you are unable to be physically present for the entire meeting, you may choose to tune in to Anchorage School District YouTube channel to watch the live stream. Recordings of the meetings are also available for agenda through the agenda and board docs. Okay, and at this time, I'm looking for approval of the agenda. Is there any dissension or anything to be added? Use your mic.
Just want to be clear that there is a proposed agenda and it's not been amended yet, right?
Right.
So I would move adoption of the agenda as originally proposed.
Okay. Well, it is revised. Yeah, it is revised.
Well, the revision would have to be moved, right?
No. Because it's already posted. So it is revised, but it's already posted, so we're approving the agenda as it is today.
Then I would move adoption of the agenda as originally proposed and not the revised version.
Okay. And what are you wanting to exclude out of there, Mr. Donnelly?
The apprentice policy subject matter.
Okay. Do I have a second? Okay. Discussion, Mr. Donnelly?
This was just added apparently to the, I thought it was going to be a motion to amend the agenda tonight because I think that would be the normal appropriate way for a body to address a change at the last minute to agenda. So I think it's actually a procedural point. If the chair rules that it's within the chair's prerogative to add things on the last day, which actually is in contrary to our rules. Our rules say we're supposed to get at least 72 hours notice, right, of changes to the agenda. So I think there might be a procedural issue presented here also. And usually, if something's being added on the last day, there's a burden on the whoever's bringing it forward to explain why it needed to be added at the last minute, rather than the burden being on the board to not accept it being on the agenda.
Katie is pulling that up, so we'll take a look at that. The direction that I was given by the district was that this was, and I'll let Dr. Bishop speak too, but I was asked, and this was brought to Ms. Hildy also, that this was of an urgent nature, that we already had a bond, an earthquake bond out there for RFIs that we needed to adjust given the information that we had. And so based on that, it was an emergency type situation. And in emergency type situations, I think we do have less than 72 hours.
I think that's correct, Madam President, but I also think that it's up to the board whether to add it or not with the lack of 72-hour notice. I think it should require an affirmative vote of the board to amend the agenda with less than 72 hours notice. I'm not saying it can't be done. I just believe that it takes a majority of the board to agree for it to be done.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. So what we can do is we will vote on whether we will accept the original agenda or if we will accept the revised agenda.
Okay.
We're trying to pull it up, but there's a glitch in the computer system here.
Yeah, we're all having issues.
Yeah.
I think the affirmative burden should be on those who seek to amend the agenda with shorter than normal notice. So I would believe that it would take 4 votes at least to amend, to put forward an agenda that wasn't consistent with the agenda that we had 72 hours ago. And that would be up to a ruling of the chair, I suppose, or if Katie can find the precise rule of procedure.
And we're getting there.
Okay.
Bear with us. Mr. Donnelly, while we're waiting, would you like the administration to come up and give us a rationale for requesting this?
I think that would be appropriate.
Okay.
Madam President, I would request Tom Roth and Jim Anderson. Jim Anderson is the Chief Financial Officer, and Tom Roth is the Chief Business Officer who brought this request forward. And just for point of order as well, I believe we have an agenda that was posted publicly on Friday. And I think the motion today would be to amend that agenda to take an item off at this point. I think that would be the appropriate action needed for Robert's rules. Because the President and Vice President had added it already. And it was published on Friday. So that's that's plenty of time before today. So we did have the 72-hour notice, public notice. And my understanding is that now you want an item off. And so a motion would be appropriate now to amend the agenda that was posted.
Mr. Donnelly.
When were the board members provided with the information that's listed on the amended agenda?
Member Donnelly, it was through the chair. It was posted on Friday.
I mean the memo that we're actually being asked to vote on. When were the board members provided with the memorandum?
Yeah. So, just to clarify, if it is deemed an emergency, if it's brought to the chair and it's deemed an emergency, based on what the information I and Board Member Hildy had, we can put that on there as an emergency item. It does say that board members, let me see, the board may, by majority vote, remove an item from the agenda if adequate documentation is not provided 2 business days prior to the regular board meeting. However, this is an emergency situation which waives that 2-day period based on the information that we received.
Board, they're looking at Code of Conduct Board Bylaw 9271. If you scroll halfway down, oh, Katie, you did the new system, so it should be good. what's the section?
It's numbered all the way.
Okay, it's number 44. So we're looking at 44 and 9271 on your board bylaws if you pull it up.
With the emergency item being placed on the agenda, not needing the 72 hours, it does not address the board voting on to remove the emergency item, only the items if they're not posted in 2 days. So I would let the board weigh in on that. Ms. Hildy? No.
I'd rather err on the side of accuracy, and emergency is that's just a very subjective thing. So I think it's better for us to err on the side of what was posted. Well, it was posted 72 hours in advance. So it was posted 72 hours in advance. There was public notice 72 hours in advance. So it really is fine. So it's unfortunate that board members didn't get a full memo, but because it was FEMA just said it last week, you just got the memo and it wasn't, quick, urgent turnaround. But I think it is appropriately placed on the agenda within 72 hours, and that is, the emergency or urgent status of it isn't part of that. It was just on in time.
And actually, it wasn't posted within 72 hours. It was posted Monday for the apprenticeship.
Yesterday?
Yes.
Okay, so
The memo, yes.
The agenda was posted.
Yeah. Yeah. It was revised. The agenda was revised.
So this
on
item
Monday.
wasn't on the, okay, so then Member Donnelly is correct, and we'll vote to, the accurate memo is the one that was posted on Friday that does not have anything about apprentice on it, and we can vote to amend the agenda today to add that to it. Do you withdraw your motion, Member Donnelly?
Yeah, with the chair's permission, I would seek to withdraw my motion and replace it with another motion.
Okay.
I believe that there was a placeholder, just the memo. There wasn't a placeholder already?
So my motion at this time would be to adopt the agenda as it previously appeared before it was amended.
Well, there were several amendments, so we need to be more specific.
Then I would move to adopt the agenda as originally proposed, as amended with the exception of the apprentice policy item. Memorandum, I guess is what it's.
And do we have a second? I think we, okay. So discussion, please.
Could I ask if Mr. Holland's online?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Does he want to speak? No? Okay. And, no.
Did you want to speak? The audio. No, wait. Thank you.
Do we need, do we still want to hear from Mr. Roth and Mr. Anderson on why this was put on the agenda as an emergency item before we vote? Okay. Gentlemen, thank you.
Through the president, so if I might just to very quickly recap, The district did receive a letter dated 10 December, last Tuesday, from the Procurement Disaster Assistance Team. The letter was in response to a query from the district specifically concerning project delivery methods for Eagle River Elementary and Greening Middle School. We wanted to understand from FEMA whether or not it would be feasible to pursue a general contractor construction management project delivery method, or GCCM. So the district received a response back from FEMA, from the Procurement Disaster Assistance Team, or PDAT. Now, in their response, they don't directly answer the question that was posed to them concerning GCCM, but what they did respond back to was, in their words, it's primarily guidance. And I'll just read this. Their concern that was raised to us was with regards to full and open competition. And they cite federal regulations that, quote, the school must conduct all procurement transactions in a manner providing for full and open competition. This regulation ensures a non-state entity receives the lowest, most effective cost option, and then they go into more details. And they specifically address the apprenticeship utilization compliance requirement. Quote, the provision mandates that the bidder agree that in all trades, crafts, categories in which there is an Alaskan federally registered apprenticeship program, it will ensure that 15% of the aggregated hours in those trade craft categories will be worked by apprentices as mandated by the Anchorage School Board policy. This provision requires a contractor to respond to the bid and operate under the contract in a specific way and could dissuade eligible contractors from participating in the solicitation. And he goes on. So I guess the timeliness of this is that currently the district does have a solicitation on the street for a repair project at East High School. Within that solicitation, we do have a project that is specific to earthquake repairs. The cost estimate, and I'm happy to bring Mr. Fennessa forward, is about $300,000 for the earthquake damage repair. So I guess the timeliness of it is that, you know, as we look at this specific project and projects coming forward, that in this example that purchasing would need to effectively publish an addendum to the solicitation were it the board's intent to waive a requirement to enforce the apprenticeship policy for any project moving forward that has earthquake reimbursement eligible damage. And I'll pause for any questions.
Mr. Kalis.
Well, I'd like to make sure that board members can ask questions. We right now are only debating putting this on the agenda. We're not talking about the whole thing, which is where I could see it going.
I just felt it was important to hear the administration's support in, yeah. So are we ready to vote on whether to remove this or not, Mr. Donnelly?
Okay, thank you. So the memorandum starts with a very powerful disclaimer. It starts with a disclaimer that says, quote, any guidance provided by this review is not legal advice, and the review is not a FEMA approval. So we have to review the memorandum in that light. And Mr. Roth, Mr. Anderson, you're not attorneys. I don't expect you to respond to this, but I want to point out that the memorandum acknowledges
Point of order, I'm sorry, Mr. Donnelly. We're speaking to whether we're going to put this on the agenda or not, and this conversation, I think, would be best served if it were on the agenda. If it's not on the agenda, we can save the conversation for later.
But Madam Chair, Madam President, I think it directly relates to the question of whether or not to add it to the agenda, because the whole premise of adding it to the agenda is an emergency. and I'm getting around to why this is not an emergency.
Okay, I'll allow it.
Thank you. First of all, the federal law specifically recognizes local law and says that local law shall be complied with in regards to FEMA reimbursements and FEMA funded projects. So the Congress has stated that. Secondly, the East High project, which is the premise for this being an emergency, because that's the only one that's currently in any kind of timely situation, is only $300,000 worth of earthquake matters. Now, my understanding from prior testimony we've had is that to be eligible for FEMA reimbursement, we would have to agree to insure facilities that get FEMA reimbursement for earthquake damage. And that some earlier testimony I remember before the board is that earthquake insurance for a facility like East High School might run in excess of $1 million a year. So why, well, I would like to know what it is, but obviously if the insurance for to capture $300,000 in funding is more than the $300,000 we would seek from reimbursement from FEMA, then it doesn't seem like that's one thing that goes against it being an emergency.
Ms. Hilty?
Thank you. I think the urgency, I think emergency is perhaps the wrong word, but urgency is that it needs to be addressed so that there is clarification going forward, because there is an RFP out there already, because we have a federal entity saying that there is a concern, so we need to discuss the concern, and if it needs to be resolved, resolve the concern. I don't know the federal role you said on following local policy or you said local law but we do policy, so I don't know why our policy would fall under that. I don't know that our municipal has that same ordinance, but I also don't know what FEMA role you'd be talking about. I'm just not familiar with it. But there is an urgency in that we have received notice that there is a potential problem, and we already have an RFP out, and it needs to be resolved. So if there is a change, we can provide adequate notice.
Ms. Michaelis?
My understanding from previous testimony is that there are different tiers of FEMA reimbursement, some of which we already have. It is the bigger, higher up or different letter tiers that might have possible strings for insurance attached to it. I don't know where this particular project falls in those tiers and if this is one that is tied to an insurance component. Without that answer, I don't know how to tie it back to what you're trying to, which is the need to have the conversation today on the overall picture.
I think at this point we need to vote on whether we're going to remove it. So the vote, you have it up there.
The motion that we originally said was to approve the agenda as originally posted on Friday, which would remove that.
With the exception of anything we added up.
Yeah. Okay. Is everybody clear on what we're voting on? Okay. Board members, please vote.
That's okay. When my computer shut down, I think you do not very well.
All right, so we've be, let me see, what do we say? No, it will be removed. We will have to post this and we will have to address this in our next meeting though. I mean, I want board members to know that we do have to take a look at this and address it. But at this time, it is removed from the agenda. 1, 2, 3, 4 yeas to 3 nays. Ms. Bellamy?
Is it appropriate for another motion? No?
Yes? Yeah, it's still open, yes.
I mean, it's, that
Is it
motion passed, right?
Right.
So can I make it for tonight's agenda? Can we add it back to, not on the same agenda, but the next agenda? No? So when do we get back, how do we get back to having a discussion on this?
It'll be on the agenda for the next board meeting.
I can't add it tonight as a non-action item for discussion?
Yes, you can add it as a non-action item.
Once the agenda's approved, it has to be a supermajority to amend the agenda.
Okay, I believe in
So you can
supermajority.
make that motion.
Okay. So what we have before us now is to add the apprenticeship discussion in non-agenda. Non-action, sorry, non-action. Everybody know what we're voting on? Okay. Is there a second? We'll get there. All right, so we'll give Katie a chance here to. Non-action, okay. All right, board members, please vote. Okay, that motion passes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yeas and 2 nays. Supermajority, yes. Okay. All right. So with those changes, the agenda has been amended. Is there any other dissension? We've already voted on it, so agenda is approved. All right. My favorite part of the night. Focus on staff, students, and community. Dr. Bishop, would you join me?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for waiting around during that public process at its best. That's why we teach Robert's rules to young people. You guys probably could have had us knowing exactly what to do. Welcome to Focus on Staff and Students. My name is Dina Bishop, and I have the pleasure of serving as the superintendent of ASD. And this part of the agenda is specifically designed to honor those folks who make ASD great. And those people are our community, our parents, our kids, our staff, really the greater community to really come together to make our schools great. And with that, we have two. Let me get my notes. Do you have my notes? All right. We are going to start with, would Principal Almond please come forward? And we're starting with the football team. Please come forward, coaches and students. And if you were at the game, you know that these gentlemen are not the only players. Their toughest finals are probably coming tomorrow, and they're going to go home and study. They didn't need to study as much as the other student athletes, right? Come on up. All right. So just come on and spread out, spread out. These South High players are the 2019 D1 Football State Champions. Woo! And ladies and gentlemen, the team finished the season with 7 wins and 4 losses, highlighted by a 27-13 final score over their Southside rival, Service, in the championship game. This win marks Sal's 4th title since the school opened in 2004 and the first in the last 5 years since 2014. Sal's championship team is made up of 12 seniors, 18 juniors, and 2 sophomores. There are 66 developmental players on the junior varsity and C teams that are set to bring the trophy back to South in the future years. Congratulations on your championship, and your dedication and hard work paid off, and you make ASD great. And I do want to say that something funny happened at the game. If I don't get to go to the stadium very often, just a couple times a year, and they have this great new concession bathroom area from the time that I used to go. And I walked in the gate, and I just remember the women's restroom being on by there. And I looked up, and I just saw a V. And in my mind, I thought, oh, maybe the other part of the W for women's fell off. And I happened to have walked in, and Coach Harmon was given his rah-rah speech at the beginning. It must have worked. And he invited me all the way in, but the students who were ready at the door saw me and were like, what the heck is she doing in here? But I thought I was going to go to the restroom, but instead I got to see the state winners before they took the field. So congratulations, gentlemen. That pep talk must have been something else, right? Because you came as the visitors, and then you... Did Service beat you earlier in the year? Oh, you don't know what we're talking about. But South High Wolverines beat the Service Cougars when it mattered, right? Right. All right. So I'm going to share a little bit about. I left my glass over there. These some of the honors, and then gentlemen, what we do is we play this game called Pass the Mic, and you each get to say something. So. Yes. Oh, thank you. Yeah, this will be better for me. All right. First of all, let me tell you that 5 of these players were first-team All-State awardees, and 1 was a second-team All-State. 6 of them were the first-team All-Conference. 5 were second-team All-Conference. 4 honorable mention All-Conference awardees. 7 All-Tournament awardees. 7 athletes were all-star selections, 2 sportsmanship award. The team GPA was 3.2, and Dana Curtis earned the assistant coach of the year. Oh, they've got me some. So yeah, thank you. Let's give a round of applause. And now, here you go. So who's captain? Wasn't quarterback? Come on, over here. This is your team, man. And you're a senior? Yeah. Mr. Senior right here, captain. And so you're going to help us, and we already know you're a senior, we already know you're captain, and your name is Jaden, but you can say all those things again, and you can talk about your team, you can talk about your coach, you can talk about your school, you can, just share about your parents, you can just anything that you want to tell us what you're feeling right now about state winning South High. Let us have it, and then you just pass the mic along. If you're shy, you can just tell me your name and your grade.
Everyone already knows my name. My name is Jaden, and I just like to thank my team, playing with them for a while, and I like to thank my coaches. They all coached me throughout my whole year, pretty much, and they've been coaching me since I was young. And I like what I'm doing. I'm playing football in college. I don't know where yet, but especially somewhere down in D2. I definitely out of state though, so I'm not trying to say it. Yeah. Nowhere, bro. You want the mic? Exactly. Anyways, I'm just trying to say thank you to my team. Yeah, that's all.
My name is Loke Yese. I'm a junior, and I thank my teammates, because my teammates had my back all year, even though I be getting slammed by that man over there. and getting yelled at. But I thank my teammates for always having my back, and I'm glad that we went out on top. And I just thank the men above for the people that I'm with and the people that surround me with the positivity that my teammates bring to me and my coaches. I'm just thankful for each and every one of them, and I hope that we can continue this journey together as a family. This is a brotherhood, and I just thank them every single day. And yep.
I'm Jackson Harmon. I play quarterback and I'm a junior. But personally, I wanted to thank my line and Carter for blocking for me all year, because that was hard. That was hard. I just want to thank all you guys for that. Yep.
I'm Dylan Maltby. I'm a junior, and I just like to thank all these guys for being wonderful most of the time. And yeah, that's about it.
I'm Callan Curtis, and I'm a junior, and I play defensive back. I want to thank all of my family, the coaches, and my teammates. And lastly, I want to thank ASD for giving us the opportunity for letting us play.
I'm Carter Weber Thomas. I play running back, and I'm a senior. I just want to say it was the best way to end my senior year, getting a ring.
I'm Landon Maloney. I'm a junior, and I'd like to thank my mom most of all. And I'm really gonna miss playing with the seniors. I like to thank coaches too. Always push me to do the best that I can. Not you.
I'm Brian Ochoa. I'm a junior, and I played running back. Yeah, I think I might have gained a couple. Since the season ended, I was number 4.
My name is Brendan Jagels. I'm a junior. I too would like to thank the coaches for pushing me and just being able to play with this awesome team this year and taking a state title.
I'm Jeremiah Womack. I'm just a kicker. But I like to thank the coaches and my teammates for a pretty great season. Can't wait for next year.
Amazing how these guys get shy all of a sudden. My name is Walter Harmon. I had the honor of coaching these young men. And as you can tell, we major in Silly. That was important for us, especially as we went through our trials and tribulations through the middle of the season. Our theme this year was Believe, and we spoke about making sure that we always believed that we could achieve something different than whatever was expected of us. This particular group has played mostly for me since they've been 5 or 6 years old. We came up together through Pop Warner. They are a very tight-knit, close group of young men. Dr. Bishop mentioned that they won the academic award. The amazing things that we expect from these young men as they go forward into the world is kind of going to surpass the fact that they've won on the field. The stuff that they're doing off the field is truly amazing. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that. We have most of these guys for another year. It's going to be really exciting. In terms of thanks Dr. Bishop, and thanks for the Assembly for taking the time to recognize. We really do appreciate that. Big special moment for these young men, another additive that they won't forget. And then, of course, a big special thanks to the coaching staff that we have. Primarily volunteers or guys that are giving up a lot of time. So we have Coach Maltby and Coach Dana Curtis behind us. Assistant Coach of the Year for the conference and the state, by the way. Yes, worthy of another clap for sure. And then a quick shout out and thanks to Mrs. Curtis from our Booster Club. Our boosters made their experience pretty memorable as well. Fed them, clothed them, babied them, hugged them, yelled at them when they needed to be, which is fairly often. And then, of course, our administration. Dr. Alma's here as well, and I'll give him the mic, but his support was amazing as well. Thanks for everything. Appreciate it.
I just want to say a quick thanks to the entire team. Being new to South, one of my very first experiences as the principal was getting invited to do the Marine Challenge with the entire team. So the stakes were pretty high from the very beginning. So right off the bat, I had to figure out how many pull-ups I could do next to these guys. And I'm pretty much a cyclist, so if I could have done them with my legs, I would have been confident, but the opposite is true in that scenario. And we just kind of had a long day, and pictures were that same day, so I actually got out of having to carry one of them up and down the football field. But that was a good July experience for me to get kind of integrated in the South community and family. And then also thank Loke. One cool thing the team did right before the state championship was give their jersey to a staff member. And I see Loke almost every morning when I get to work, and we chat a lot of times. And so there was actually a little bit of a fight over whose jersey I was going to wear, but he pulled rank because he was the upperclassman, and so I ended up wearing his jersey that day. So it was just one of those symbols of kind of community and giving back to the school and the things that underlie just what the coaches were trying to do with the team the entire year. So thanks for that.
And Mr. Almond, stay here because we have a school that has made history. South High is the first school who, in the same year, has had a flag football championship as well as a D1 football championship in the state. So, Lady Wolverines, please come forward from the 2019 flag football. All right. As I said, this is South's first flag football championship in the school's history and is also the first time in Alaskan history to have championships in both boys and girls football from the same school. South finished with a record of 16-2 on the season, including a victory over the Fairbanks Conference champions, Lathrop. They also defeated West High 21-12 in the championship game. The Wolverines' starting quarterback, Shelby Odom, or is it Odom or Odom, suffered a season-ending injury in the second to the last game of the season. Ladies and gentlemen, the team came together as a family and rallied support behind freshman quarterback Olivia Hartwell to win the next 5 games, including 3 playoff games in 1 week. South had 5 first-team all-conference players, 5 second-team all-conference players, and 3 honorable mention players this season. The team had a fantastic support from parent volunteers and administrators, activities principal, school principal, who also attended every JV and varsity game this season and supported the ladies every day at school. Congratulations on your successful season and championship victory. Ladies, you make ASD, and everybody help me now because you know the word, you make ASD great. All right. So who's my team captain? Shelby. We've already had these gentlemen kind of set the bar high with their comments and things. So share a little bit about yourself, your team, whatever you'd like, because we want to hear from you. This is your time for us to honor you, and we just want to know a little bit more about you.
Okay. My name's Shelby Autumn. I played starting quarterback, as you said, and I also played defense, some middle linebacker. My dad is assistant coach this year, Bob Autumn. It was really nice having him on the field, so I just like to thank him and all the other coaches as well. The team, like you said, I did have career-ending injury, but Olivia played just amazing. The way she came up and took that spot, and the rest of the girls, they were so supportive. They never made me feel like I was ever like not a part of the team anymore. I was there at every practice, every game, and I'd just like to thank them for the season and having a great year.
I'm Haley Smith. I'm one of the other 4 captains. I play defensive cornerback. Offense was never my thing, as everybody here should know. But I basically just want to overall thank everybody. Like, you know who you are. If I try to name everybody, I'm going to forget someone. But everybody, including the parents, also including the boys who came to a couple of our games, and they were awesome about that. And yeah, it was a nice way to end a 4-year thing. And sad it's over, but on to bigger things. So thanks, you guys.
Okay, I am Willow Oswald, and I am a senior this year, and I played starting rusher, and starting center. And yeah, it was a really amazing season. I find myself missing it all the time, and I would like to thank my family for driving me to and from a lot of the games, also you guys. But yeah, and also I would really like to thank Dr. Allman, because I've only been in flag for 3 years instead of 4, but this was the first time I've ever seen a principal at a flag football game, and that means a lot. So thank you so much.
My name's Olivia. I'm a freshman, and I played QB. I played QB for C team, and then I went up to JV, and then I went up to varsity. So I just wanted to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to try out, and yeah.
My name's Hannah Crott. I'm a junior, and I played rusher. I'd like to thank my teammates and especially the coaches. Like, I don't think any of my teammates going into the season thought we'd be the state championship, saying South had never won it before, but they knew we had the potential, and they pushed us every day to do our best and strive for the title. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm Victoria Hawkinson. I played middle linebacker and blocker. I'd just like to thank everyone here, teammates and everything. We had a Coach Houston. This was his first year as head coach, and his whole mantra for the whole year was win our last game. So, like Hannah said, like not a lot of us believed it, but by the end, you know, we did it. So.
I'm Chloe Sweet, and I'm a junior, and I was the punter, and I most of all want to thank the coaches for always pushing our team to work hard, and I'd like to thank my teammates for having a great season.
I'm Josie Crawford. I'm a junior. I played corner. I'd like to thank my team for being the best. Love you guys. And the coaches, and Houston for giving the best nicknames. Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Doug. Hi, I'm Bella Clopton, and I'm going to ask Coach Scoey to turn around so we can see what the words in your sweatshirt. So our theme this year is kind of family strong, and so I think family is a relative thing almost. As a team, we're a type of a family, but not only that, but we have relative families helping out all around the background. Miss Kim always does our pictures so we can see what we can improve on, and is always there helping us with many things. Coach Scoey's wife recorded for us also so we could improve and everything. So I wanted to thank you all for your support behind the scenes, and everybody understands that. And then our PTSA, our wonderful moms, from one team mom to the actual moms. Thank you so much. And yeah, coaches.
I'm Bob Autumn. I'm the offensive coordinator, one of the assistant coaches. I spent a lot of years coaching tackle football, Pop Warner. I spent a few years with the South football staff, and I didn't know if I could coach girls. To be perfectly honest, it's a different thing. But looking back, I'm so blessed. These girls are amazing. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. It was a great
a great year, a great experience, and I can't think of a better way of ending 10 years at South. Shelby had older brothers, and this is just, I couldn't even imagine a better way to go out. This has been amazing.
You can't cry, Coach, because I'll cry. So enough of that. My name's Scoey Vergen. I was the defensive varsity coach. I've been with the program for 3 years. I started the program when my daughter played defense and was lucky enough to get invited back. Exceptionally proud of this group of young ladies, student athletes. Appreciate the administration's support. Thank you so much. And I want to give kudos to our head coach because he's humble and he's not gonna toot his own horn. So you will today, okay? But just grateful for his leadership and his patience, and it all came together when it needed to. Family strong.
Yeah, thanks. So, I'm Coach Houston. Incredibly blessed to have an opportunity with these guys. Coach Autumn's going to get all weepy, and poor Shelby doesn't like it when big guys cry, and that's going to have been the sort of been kind of this season with an emotional finish. It was really hard to always kind of stay level because I love these guys so much. This team has gone through a lot of adversity. We've worked hard. Anyone knows that football starts in July when it was 100 degrees outside on the field and ends when it 31 degrees in the state championship game when these girls are wearing same uniforms out there freezing, working their tails off. But honestly, I couldn't do it without these guys. Couldn't do it without the families that are there behind the scenes. Couldn't do it without our admin, Dr. Allman, Chris Ruggles, our activities principal, enormously supportive of everything we were doing for flag football. And of course, my coaches, C-team coach, Coach Galasich, and my assistant coaches, just out there doing a wonderful job. So I'd like to thank the school board for recognition. Dr. Bishop, thank you so much for this kind of a neat opportunity to bring these kids in. Coach Harmon said it all. It's hard to beat Coach Harmon in words out there. But anyway, so I just proud of these guys, and we'll be back here next year. Okay. Dr. Allman.
So similarly to the football team, got started early, and I spent some of my earliest times at South on the field with them because it was a good opportunity in the afternoon to go get some sun after being inside all day. So just a ton of energy in this group that kind of set the tone for the entire year, and I think that's carried over to this point as well. And I would also say that their championship game was played on West turf, so we were going into pretty hostile territory at that point. And came from a lot of adversity throughout the season to win this one, so that made it even a little bit more meaningful. And similar to the boys, got beat by service early in the season, came back, overcame that adversity, and won. And I'd also like to give a shout out to Coach Houston. He was one of the first people to clothe me in South spirit wear. I have probably like 4 different sweatshirts for South flag, so I'm set for a few years now. And so he was the first to give me that spirit wear right off the bat. And we're just really looking forward to kind of moving the program forward and trying to sustain the success we've experienced this fall. Last thing I'll say is Chris Ruggles was mentioned. He's our activities principal. He's also behind the scenes doing a ton of work, and today is actually his birthday. So hopefully he's having a birthday dinner right now with his family.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our focus on staff and students. Thank you so much.
And the mics are working. Yay! So at this time, it's reports, and our student advisory board representative is not here. And I know we did have some other meetings. Ms. Michaelis, are you ready to talk about finance?
We had a finance committee meeting today. Quick overview on the survey that was out and some of the results. Board members should be getting the results probably in the next week or so, possibly, and just a high-level conversation on the governor's budget. And we look forward to having possibly a meeting on January 7th.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Bellamy, communications.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam President. Our last meeting was on December 10th, and we had 2 items on the agenda. Our legislative priorities probably took up most of our discussion. And then we planned our legislative luncheon, which took place last Friday. Oh, and our next meeting will be the 14th of January from 3 to 4 p.m.
Do we still have Mr. Hallman on the phone? Does he want to give a report on communications or governance? Sorry.
I am still here, but I don't have a report ready for you.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Is there any other reports? Nope. All right. We will move on to public testimony. And the board welcomes public comment on non-agenda and non-action items. We value public comment as it ensures that we remain aware of public thoughts, ideas, and concerns, and informs our decision-making process. There is a 1-hour time slot at the beginning of the meeting. Testimony in excess of 1 hour will be heard at the end of the meeting or may be submitted in writing. We have a table front and center with microphones available for testimony. When I call your name, you will have 3 minutes to testify, and you may begin speaking when the timer appears on the screen in front of you and in front of you and begins the countdown. When you have 30 seconds left, the number will turn yellow. When the timer reaches 0, please finish your sentence. In order to provide equity to all that would like to speak, the board asks that there is no clapping after testimony, as it may intimidate others wishing to testify with opposing opinions. Additionally, it is not our practice that board members answer questions or engage in discussion with members of the public. This is your time to speak and our time to listen. The board will consider all information shared by the public, and when deemed necessary, issues raised in testimony will be referred to the administration for follow-up. And the first one is, I need my glasses. Elena Drager. And if I could have Rebecca Caldwell also. And Rebecca, you can come up here and sit also, please. And Elena, when you see the timer start, you can begin.
Hi, my name is Ilana Drager, and I'm thanking you all for your time. I'm here to speak to the board. I'm assuming this is the board. I've done this a couple times, so yes, other than superintendent. My concern is ultimately bullying. So the adults at my son's school in the PTSA board represent bullying for the school. My issue with that is that they are, in my opinion and other parents' opinions, the biggest offenders of bullying at the school. I have taken this to the school as far as the principal, the vice principal. I've gone to the district, and I'm ultimately here because there is no definitive line as far as the PTA board and the school. And what I mean by that is Alaska is the only state that says it's whatever the school wants to do with whatever the PTA wants to do. And if the PTA wants to exclude, which is the bullying, anybody that they want, which they do at many schools, but particularly tonight, this school, then they can do that, which severely affects the advocacy and participation of parents and community members. Again, the ultimate issue is bullying. The largest form and the most hurtful form of bullying is exclusion. And I am not okay with the people that are representing this bullying month at our school being the biggest offenders, in my opinion, of bullying. So what I am asking the board is to draw a definitive line with a policy that would be made saying what determination the school has as far as the volunteering from the community, the parents, the teachers, whoever, should not only and ultimately be up to the PTA and should not be left up to them because the principal is in fear or anybody else is in fear of not getting along and not getting things that they want that are political or financial or, in other words, have nothing to do with the children. And the mission statement of the board and the school district is supposed to be students come first. So there you go. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. If I could have Heather Jordan and Rebecca, when you see the time, you can, right here in front, you can begin.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Caldwell, and I have a question about possible conflict of interest and/or violations of the Open Meetings Act regarding immediate family members both serving and voting on the same boards, whatever boards that may be. I am a newly seated member on the Family Partnership Charter Schools APC board, holding the staff seat. There are 2 teacher seats, 6 parent seats, 2 student seats, and 1 staff seat. My curiosity prompted me to research the Association of Alaska School Boards, MOA, State of Alaska, and the ASD School Board bylaws, trying to find any information and/or laws on the matter of immediate family members both serving and voting on the same boards. I did not find any information addressing this issue. The only information I did find on immediate family members being a conflict of interest was addressing employment, purchases, services, etc. On November the 8th, 2019, I sent an email to Timmy Tallis, the Associate Executive Director of the Association of Alaska School Boards, inquiring about immediate family members both serving and voting on the same boards. She replied, "On paper, the answer is no, there is nothing that prohibits this from happening. However, from a practical point of view, it does not make sense. My biggest concern and where I would like to see the most conflict, is just as you mentioned, breaking the Open Meetings Act." So, and I have the definition of immediate family members. It's a spouse, someone living with the person who is not legally married, child, stepchild, adoptive child, parent, sibling, grandparent, aunt, uncle, parent or sibling of the person's spouse. And then I also have the definition of, as stated in the Open Meetings Act, a meeting means a gathering of members of a governmental body when more than 3 members or majority of the members, whichever is less, are present. Ooh, I'm running out of time. And so I just think it's prudent for all of us to maybe think about this for future needs on board. And I do have packets for everybody that has the information I just stated. So thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
Katie will get those packets for me. Okay, and if I could go ahead and call Madeline Brokaw. Did I say that right? Oh, you guys want, okay, we'll wait. Heather, it'll be a minute, she has to come back. But when you see the clock, you can begin.
Good evening. I have a first grader
at Chugiak Elementary. This is 4 days to 5 days of work. This isn't all of what she has to do, and she has an IEP, and there's still more stuff. This is just 4 or 5 days worth of stuff. My issue is, as you see here, I just said she was a first grader. She has kindergarten sight words because her mind, all the curriculum that's being taught right now, she's not expunging that curriculum. She moved back, and now she's back for kindergarten. She shuts down at your guys' math everybody voted on. My daughter and a bunch of those first and kindergartners cannot do it. Firsthand, how do I know? I'm volunteering every day, 2 hours a day, to sit in my daughter's classroom to help. The teacher does not have time. She has 26 students, going to be 27 at the end of after break comes in. That's too many children for a first and kindergarten classroom. She has 19 first graders and the rest kindergarten. We only have one full-time, full class of kindergarten, which has 27 kids. And I understand we have Eagle River kids all throughout that area. But my thing is, my daughter's not getting, it's not expunging in her little brain. And I would like to have something or somebody help these teachers have more time with these kids, not time, but breaks so these kids can learn. Sit there, because last year, my teacher, the same teacher I have this year, she'd have math and then they'd play a game. This year, I got told she can no longer do that. She has to go, it has to one subject to another. No breaks, nothing fun for these kids, and it's not getting into their little minds. So my question is, how can we fix this? Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. All right, I don't even have to call your names. I like it. Madeline and, yeah, Noelle. Ladies, when you see the, go.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Madeline Broca, and I'm currently a sophomore at Eagle River High School. I feel compelled to speak to you after attending the recent town hall meeting at Mirror Lake Middle School concerning the discussion surrounding a merger of Eagle River High School with Chugiak High School. I would like to briefly share my experience at ERHS. The summer before I began my freshman year, my family moved back to Alaska. As a military child, I've attended 7 different schools. Always being the new kid is incredibly stressful. However, Eagle River is a unique experience. Even before school started, I was warmly welcomed to the campus. As you know, the football season starts before school begins, so I went to a few games and began meeting new people. When school finally started, I wasn't nervous on the first day since I had already met other students. Also, because of the size of ERHS, I got to know my teachers within a very short amount of time, and the teachers get to know their students with greater ease, which helps in many ways. It allows for more open communication and understanding between faculty, staff, and students. The climate and culture of our high school is very open and welcoming. This immediately made it easier for me to join more clubs and try new classes. And now, halfway between my sophomore year, I am standing before you benefiting from a personalized high school public education. I believe that Eagle River High School has provided and continues to provide me and my peers a solid foundation for my learning, which I will continue to build upon in my future.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Noelle Zellman, and I am also currently attending Eagle River High School as a sophomore. I have grown tremendously over the last year and a half with the support of the Eagle River High School community, and I would not be the person I am today if it wasn't for the amazing faculty, staff, and student body at ERHS. I started school in my homeland of Germany. In comparison, Eagle River High School has an atmosphere that is one of the most loving and positive a student could ever experience. A fact that I think anyone connected to our school can honestly agree upon. I think the reason that Eagle River High School is truly a community of excellence and respect is because every person has a chance to connect with the adults and peers around them. One example is our principal, Mr. Helvey. If you would like to stand. I see him almost every day. He knows my name, the activities I'm involved in, and he often visits classes several times a week. And anytime I've ever asked him for help, he doesn't hesitate. I feel fortunate to attend a school where, as a sophomore, I actually know my principal. So when the day of my graduation arrives, I'm positive that I will know or have a connection with nearly every staff member in the receiving line. We, as students of Eagle River High School, would like to respectfully ask you, the Anchorage School District School Board, to consider the short and long-term consequences of consolidation and the impact it would have on all the students at both high schools in our community. We would also like to invite each of you to visit our school anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So at this time, do we have anyone else that would like to testify? Come forward, please state your name.
Good evening. My name is Bronson Fry, F-R-Y-E. I am the elected business representative of the Painters and Allied Trades Union, Local 1959, serving the state of Alaska. I also serve as the recording secretary of the South Central Alaska Building Trades Council for the last 12 years. I'm calling today, or here testifying today, essentially to thank you for tabling the decision on apprenticeship until we can get more definitive information on this. I want to commit to you that on behalf of the organized labor and the building trades that we are looking into this. The little bit of research that we've been able to do just today, which is when we found out about it, does seem to indicate that there are school districts with apprenticeship utilization policies, specifically the LA Unified School District, and there are schools in that district that have received FEMA money. You can find them right on FEMA's website. That's where we found them. And I just want to read this part of the labor compliance criteria for the LA Unified School District. It reads: the labor compliance. The criteria used to evaluate a bidder's labor compliance shall include at a minimum the bidder's ability to comply with the apprenticeship requirements of the California Apprenticeship Council and the DIR, its past conformance with such requirements, and its past conformance with the requirements to pay prevailing wages on public works projects. And so it does seem that there is more information to be gathered here, and we'll be doing that, and I know that you will, and I just appreciate the opportunity for us to come back as a community in a few weeks or whenever this thing is on the agenda. We can take some more testimony and have a more substantive discussion about it, because I do think it's very important, and I'm glad it's not something that's being rushed and pushed through tonight, so thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to testify? State your name, please, even though I know it.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joelle Hall. I'm the political director of the Alaska AFL-CIO. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify tonight. Yes, I want to reiterate what Bronson has just said. We are eager to work with the board and the district to educate folks about what we think we have been able to find in our first initial round of research, which is in many jurisdictions on the West Coast where apprenticeship utilization is frequently the standard inside school districts and municipalities, most of which will have had FEMA funding somewhere along the line in the last few years. So we commit to you just to help with that research so that we can build a case so that we can continue with this very important policy to make sure that our apprentices have a chance to work on the jobs in our community. And we're grateful that we have been given this pause so that we can help you come to an educated decision. And I want to say that in the initial read of some of the areas that appear to be of concern, in particular, pardon me while I bring this up, it was the place in the code 200-319 where it talks about the regulation ensures that non-state entities receive the lowest effective cost competition, preventing non-competitive pricing practices such as favoritism, collusion, fraud, and waste. I can't imagine that an apprenticeship utilization falls into the category of those four things. It is not fraud, waste. It is not favoritism. So I think that when you read through that standard and we are able to find the evidence, that we'll all be able to have a big sigh of relief and find that we can legally and rightly use our apprentices on the work for the earthquake. So thank you again.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to testify? You can both come up. Whoever's going first, just state your name.
Joshua Lamb, organizer for Plumbers and Pipefitters, Local 367. Just to echo what Joelle and Bronson stated to the school board, I just want to thank you guys for taking the time to hear us out and give us the opportunity to do some more research and help you guys make the best, most informed decision that we can. I think if there's anywhere more appropriate for our apprentices to go to work than our school district from where we're pulling the apprentices from, I'd be hard pressed to answer that question.
Thank you very much. Melinda Taylor, Communications Director for IBEW Local 1547. I had the honor and privilege of serving on the Anchorage Assembly from 1998 to 2003. And I just want to echo some statements made by Mr. Donnelly that what we found was that federal law does yield to local law if it's stricter. And so we're going to be looking at this document very carefully. And there is a difference between may and shall. And I would just encourage you to keep an open mind, and I thank Ms. Bellamy for allowing us to talk about this a little bit more. But I think it is a critical issue with regards to the mission of the district, because the mission of the district is to prepare young people for their future. And the apprenticeship program is a perfect vehicle for doing that, and you're putting taxpayer money where your mouth is. So thank you very much, and we look forward to sharing additional information.
Okay, thank you both. Is there anyone else who would like to testify? Okay, we're going to move on with the superintendent's update.
Thank you, Madam President. And I'm going to I'm going to have some audience participation in my presentation. This evening, I want to update the board and also have it on record, the graduation celebration, and just share a little bit. We shared some numbers the other day that were hot off the press Thursday evening. And we want to share those with you, and then really what our principals have to say about their work and the work of their work, meaning their whole schools, because they're all different. I'm also going to talk to you and share a little bit with you the multi-tiered system of supports through elementary that occurred this week. And Dr. Stock will provide an update on evaluation of wellness initiatives. So Dr. Johnson's going to assist me, so we'll go to the first slide. So we're going to share each of these schools individually. The other day we shared our student groups, and now we want to just share some highlights, some of our schools, so that we can celebrate in their success. I'll turn it over to Dr. Johnson.
Thank you, Dr. Bishop. So school board members, I am really pleased to report to you that our graduation rate is up almost 3.5% in the last school year. So that's huge improvement. So I just wanted to share with you, I have some principals here to help me share the excitement of such a big gain in one school year from 2018 to 2019. Typically we get this information in the fall, so we've gotten it a little bit late, but in some ways it's been a blessing in disguise given the results. There's some new folks in our Department of Education at the state level, and we've been able to work hand in hand with them this year to really get good, accurate information. We've worked really hard on tracking every student and graduate down so we know exactly how to report them as a graduate. It's a very complicated process. So we've done a really good job of analyzing all of our data this year, and our principals, some of which are here tonight to share with you individual successes, have done a tremendous job really focusing in on each and every kid getting their diploma at the end of their career in ASD. So we're really proud of that. So I just would really commend all of our principals and our staff in our high schools and even our middle and elementary schools, because it's a team effort to get all the way to that stage. So with that, I wanted to highlight Bartlett first. They are our biggest gainer in our Big 8 high schools. So I'm going to have Principal Sean Prince come up and talk a little bit about the work that Bartlett has done.
Thank you, everybody. It's really an honor to be here to showcase our school. I couldn't be more proud of the teachers and the students over the last few years. In this last year, we made a tremendous jump. One of the things that we have really focused on is that social emotional piece, the connection between teachers and students. And just like the two young ladies from Eagle River High School had mentioned, that having a good relationship with the teachers that are there in a smaller learning environment is really important. And when we looked at those pieces at Bartlett High School, we really made a concerted effort to make sure we make connections with each one of our students, and then over time focus on our instruction in the classroom, and then also raising the bar for all of our students participating in clubs, sports, and activities so that they have mandatory study halls if they don't have a 3.17. So in the last 4 years, I think our graduation rate has actually increased 21%, and this has been our biggest gain so far, and it's just really important. So we celebrate what our teachers have done.
Great job.
Thank you,
Great
Sean.
job.
So I also wanted to highlight East High School. They've also made tremendous gains. And Sam Spinella, the principal of East High School, wasn't able to be here tonight, but Dave Morris, our curriculum principal at East, is here to talk to you about the work they've been doing at East.
Thank you. It's also my pleasure to represent East High tonight. Sorry Sam couldn't be here, but as you know, working on graduation rates is a really complex challenge, and so it's kind of hard to define one or two things that, in fact, we can point to in terms of increasing our graduation rates. But a few of the things that we're doing at East that I think are worth addressing certainly are we've worked on building out our abilities to address the social and emotional needs of our kids. We're at a place now in our school where I feel really confident that we've got eyes on every kid in our building. And how that translates for us is when the wheels start to come off for one of our students and they start to lose their way, whether it's academically, whether it's socially, whatever. We've got folks in place that can identify that, and then we can quickly put together some support and interventions to best meet the needs of those kids and get them back on track. One of the things kind of unique to East, I think, is that we've made a concerted effort to maintain our Career and Resource Center. One of the challenges we have at East is helping our kids develop a vision for themselves and their future. And our kids come from places that are really challenging, stories that you can't even begin to describe. And so we've dedicated a counselor, basically a half a position, to maintain our Career and College Resource Center. And he does all the things, Scott Henry does all the things you'd expect of that position. Helps kids with things like the PSAT, those sorts of things. He helps bring Job Corps into our building so kids can see those opportunities. Works with AvTech to make sure our kids understand those options. Of course, any college recruiter that comes in, they go through our CRC. But in addition, what we've done is we've tried to involve our families in this process, right? Educate our families in terms of what kind of opportunities are available for their kids, and how we and they can support their kids to actually change their station in life. And so, those evening meetings kind of started out pretty modest, but I can tell you they're gaining traction, and everyone seems to be more well attended. We've had things like FAFSA completion nights. We just had a freshman and sophomore future readiness night and had families show up for that. And so we're really excited about how things are going to East, how we're building opportunities for kids, and I can assure you, you've got a group of folks over there that are working really hard every day for kids.
All right, thank you, Dave. So I wanted to highlight McLaughlin Secondary School next. You got to represent equally if you're the board president.
I don't have everything.
Just saying. Before I talked about McLaughlin, I just wanted to address a little bit. So, as most people are aware, McLaughlin is where our incarcerated youth are going to school, and so they clearly come with a lot of challenges when they arrive at school, not by their choice, right? But I think it's important for us to highlight all of our programs and the goal that we have for kids, no matter what their circumstances, is to finish and get a diploma. So I'd like to highlight some of the work that McLaughlin's doing with some of our most challenging kids at the high school level.
Thank you. Good evening. We're going to have t-shirts pretty soon, too.
Okay, good.
I'll bring those in. Yes, McLaughlin, we get kids from all over the state and a lot of trauma. One of the things that I wanted to highlight, actually a few things, last year we implemented an advisory for the first time and created lessons around SEL, social emotional learning. We taught the lessons every single day and built them around our foundations platform. We also built it around our REACH model, which stands for responsibility, effort, attitude, character, and honesty, and our behaviors of support. The second thing we did was we had an after-school tutoring program and a very successful summer school program, which is getting bigger and bigger every single year. It's amazing. I wish you guys could stop by and see what we do. And then the last piece is that we have slowly been transitioning from online instruction to more direct instruction. And that's been extremely important because we know that our kids need that direct face-to-face instruction with more SEL. And it's been amazing with the engagement that we've had with the kids and the amount of creativity that comes, as well as just the connections we've made. So yes, almost 30%.
I
It's
know.
amazing.
Great.
Thank you, Sandra. So, and I forgot to introduce Sandra Senor. She's our new principal at McLaughlin. She was a teacher leader at McLaughlin before she became the principal this year. So our next school is Chugiak. Our principal, Megan Haswell, is here. So Chugiak is one of our big gainers in the Big 8 as well, up to 93.63% graduation rate this year.
Well, thank you for having us tonight. It's always really exciting to celebrate with our colleagues all of the great things that are happening across ASD, but even more exciting when you get to stand here and celebrate what's happening in the school that you're a leader in. One of the big things that we did, I think, was when we implemented our professional learning communities, we really took it down to a focus on student learning and asking what it was that we wanted our students to know and be able to do, and how are we addressing those needs, and how are we helping the students who needed the most help, and how are we engaging the students who are on the other end of that as well. To do that, we really started to focus on creating an exceptional school climate. We took capturing kids' hearts as well as other things that the district has provided us and really made it so that students wanted to be at school. What can we do to engage them? What can we do to get them there? Because as Sandra mentioned before, at General Leadership, she doesn't have a problem with attendance at her school, whereas the rest of us have to kind of find ways and creative ways to get students there. And what we really found is that there are a lot of times that we as adults focus on all the things that students are not doing or what they should be doing better, and decided to reframe that and refocus on really what it is. How can we support that, and how can we recognize our students positively for the things that they are already doing? And what we found is just that little bit of working together to create that climate and show that we acknowledge and recognize the hard work they're doing has shown huge gains for us so far.
All right, thank you.
Great job.
So last and certainly not least, I would like to highlight Save High School, and Ron Brown, the principal at Save, is here. Before he starts discussing the results at Save, just to understand a little bit about the Save program, it is a credit recovery program for many of our high school students. So the students that come to Save typically are already behind in credits. So if they stayed at their home high school, they would be on track for not graduating in 4 years as scheduled. And so they do a lot of tremendous work at SAVE to engage kids in school and also get them graduated on time. And you can see that their work is starting to really pay off. So I'll turn it over to Ron.
Well, thank you. First of all, I would just like to say, I really don't like to use that term that kids are
stuck with having to do credit recovery, because every opportunity for us to engage with a kid is just another opportunity for them to stretch themselves. And that's really what we're all about at SAVE, is helping kids to stretch themselves, kind of get out the box, do some out-of-the-box thinking, and then with that comes an opportunity for them to be creative about their own educational careers, taking responsibility for what they want to get accomplished. One of the things that I found interesting this year was that when we offered the opportunity for students to stay late after school and to come in on Saturdays, you'd be surprised how many students raise their hand and say, what time would you like me to be there? And these are kids who are having trouble at their home high schools. So that let me know that we were doing the right thing, we were thinking out the box, we were making connections with kids, and I'm just all aboard with just being creative and being flexible with schedules. I would also be remiss if I didn't let you guys know, I work with a great group of staff. I mean, we're talking staff who've been there for 25, 30, even 40 years. So that lets you know that what we're doing, it works. Kids are connecting with adults, and kids are graduating. And I invite you to our graduation. It's one of the most unique graduations that you will ever attend. So this is my personal invitation to you guys. Come on out and see the work that we're doing at SAVE. Thanks.
Thank you. So I just wanted to thank the board for your support. We're super excited around the results this year with our graduation rates, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Bishop.
All right, just wanted to share those individual, as Dr. Johnson said, we shared the other day the individual student groups, so we know that we really are focusing on all kids, and it isn't a one group that's carrying us all. All of our kids are working hard, and as you can see, it will look different in all of our schools, as it should. They use the expertise of their leadership as well as their support from district and working with the teams at their school for the teachers, parents to decide. So congratulations. All right. Thank you. And I'm going to just go very quickly through this section. It's the multi-tiered system of supports, and actually some of the work that the secondary with Kirsten Johnson works through the MTSS process, which is really using data to focus on needs. But the Clark Informer shared some information with you, and we provided some collateral so that over break you can kind of understand more. What is this about? It really is about creating a system so that no one administrator, no one teacher, no one superintendent, and no one school board would determine what we can provide for our students, that there'd be a system that would allow us to continually find growth and meet student needs. So we do have posters. This week was the week that elementary schools got together, so each group, each school created its own group of teams, if you will, to come and look at their data and look at their staffing and look at how is their school organizes to meet school students' needs. You heard a lot tonight about Capturing Kids' Hearts, which is also a flipping group program for students. We use as the leadership the Excel model, and here again is how their agenda that day was monitored or designed rather around the Excel model. And basically the goal in that is that to empower our employees to really do the work themselves and know and be prepared the best that they can and supported to carry out ASD's mission that's set by the school board. So we've just provided those, but for a mind's eye to let you know, this is just a flow chart of what happens when I see a student. We don't wait for failure. We look and we progress monitor to know what is it that kids need and how can we target the instruction. It's really a way that we're not guessing we should do this maybe or what can we do. We don't waste time. Teachers work together. They share the results together and plan together. The next is how they log what we are doing with kids to demonstrate the types of interventions. One intervention is not guaranteed. That pyramid shows that with a good core curriculum, 80 to 90% of students will learn and should learn, but there are additional groups of students that we know need more. They need the core and more, we call it. And so this really shares their progress, and it helps us monitor their needs so that they are individualized to students. There is some reading for you to take home over the break. It is the magazine Education Week. It's a teacher magazine that really talks about getting reading right. It's just published this month. We did have publishing rights to this as we belong. And so we created some reading materials from you that we've downloaded online so that you can take it if you're traveling, if you have a cup of coffee, you can take a look. Some of the issues there are really mirrored in our own school district. They're mirrored around the country and really working as a country to ensure that all of our students and kids and citizens are literate. One of the things that we do for multi-tiered system of support is really to offer preschool. And this is actually a trifold. The preschool team, in addition to the elementary ed, created this. We are working with the city. They're quite interested in how we've grown. Share with you again that we were able to multiply through efficiencies the number of preschools using our 4th tier busing. But these are just some data presently on our preschool students, and we just hope to grow that. And again, we have different types of preschools that meet different types of student needs. But that's for your information as well. And then I just whipped through everything because I know we spent a lot of time on graduations, as we should have. And so I'm just going to turn it over to Dr. Stock. Mark is going to share a brief update on the work this week as well as last on the Wellness Initiative, as he had mentioned at our last board meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Bishop. So the preliminary evaluation of that is about 75% complete. So as you remember, with the board ad hoc committee having some ideas around recess and lunch times and some of those issues, we took those parameters that were suggested and discussed in that group, and we've put a pilot together. So as you're aware, currently there's 20 elementary schools in ASD that are part of this pilot. Dr. Juliana Cohen is actually in the air right now, flying back to Harvard. She has, through a grant of her own, has been up here helping us with the evaluation at no cost. And so I will just share with you her parting comments. She said, I've worked all over in public health for quite a while. She said her experience in ASD, she says, has been the most amazing one she's had yet, ever. It's one of the larger. I asked her about our size of the pilot. How did that compare to her previous research and her publications in this area? She says ours right now is the largest pilot of this type that she's worked with. So we're about 75% done. So what we've got are, number one, 3rd and 4th graders have been surveyed. It's like a 2-minute survey. It's just a few short questions. They did one at the beginning, and they have another one they've just finished, and it's in the process. Her graduate students are compiling all of that, and we'll be doing all the statistical work to crunch those numbers in the pilot schools. The second type of evaluation piece is a Google form that teachers and staff can go and put their ideas and input, their feedback into a Google Doc that we collect that information on. The third part, she was just here Thursday, Friday, and then this Monday, yesterday. And she's visited 6 sites, and she spent half a day each in each site. She started by interviewing staff, talking to them in focus groups. She met with the head of the food service for the school. She met with parents that had been selected. And one of the most amazing things was that some of the parents who did not know that there was a pilot going on had the same feedback about some of the changes that they're seeing in their child, and yet didn't know what it was due to. So there were some positive things that'll come out in her report on that area. So that's the third thing. The fourth one is the parent surveys. We have about 6 questions that have been inserted into the family engagement survey that will go out in February. And the nice thing about that is we will then be able to disaggregate and analyze the changes, the differences, if there are any, between the families who are in the pilot schools and the families that are not in pilot schools, to see if the parents are saying anything different from each other about whether their children are hungry when they come home, or whether they're rested, or whether they're angry and lethargic and all those questions. The fifth thing is principal interviews. So another research group has a grant that they did for us. They have interviewed all 20 pilot principals and done extensive interviews of them about how it went in their schools and some of the problems and the challenges they're overcoming. So those are 5 parts. The last part is a quantitative piece where we will be looking into things like the nurse visits and whether or not there's more or less of those. There's some anecdotal information from nurses that in schools that had a successful pilot that they had less students coming down to the nurse reporting hungry. So those are the 6 pieces, and so we'll come back to you, and our target, and it's not complete, but depending on the board president and superintendent's plan on how this gets reported, we could tentatively be as ready as early as the 2nd board meeting in January or one of the February meetings to give you the updated report. So.
All right. Madam President, that concludes the update for educating all students for success in life, the update on what's been happening around the district to meet the mission.
Good things. Thank you very much. All right.
I move to approve the consent agenda, ASD memorandum number 054, personnel report.
Second.
Okay. Board members, please vote. And that passes unanimously with 7 yeas. Okay, before we start our testimony on action items, the procedures for action item testimony is as follows. An action item memo is first introduced by the Vice President and if seconded by another board member, I will open the floor for public testimony. If you have signed up in advance or indicated you are interested in providing testimony, I will call you up to the front table to speak. You'll have 3 minutes to talk, and you'll see a timer on the screen in front of you to monitor the time remaining and inform you of when you need to conclude. After all testimony closes, I will open the floor for board discussion, followed by the student board representative vote before finally calling for the official vote. Voting results will be displayed on the screen to my right.
I move to approve ASD memorandum number 053 and accept a grant from the Alaska Department of Education and Early Development Migrant Education Program in the amount of $54,600 to purchase books and reading materials for distribution to eligible migratory children.
Is there any public testimony on memorandum? Oh, sorry, second. Getting ahead of myself. Any public testimony on memorandum 053? Seeing none, is there any board discussion? Seeing none, could I have board members vote, please? And memorandum 053 passes unanimously with 7 yeas.
I move to approve ASD memorandum number 069 and accept the Alaska Elementary and Secondary Education Act Consolidated Federal Programs Grant for fiscal year 2019-2020 as approved by the State Department of Education and Early Development. This federal consolidated award includes titles 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the amount of $24,682,379.
Second.
Okay. Is there any public testimony on memorandum 069? Seeing none, is there any board discussion? No board discussion. Would the board please vote? And that passes unanimously with 7 yeas.
I move to approve ASD memorandum number 070 and authorize the superintendent to accept a McKinney-Vento Homeless Education Grant Award from the Alaska Department of Education and Early Development in the amount of $60,053.
Second.
Okay. Is there any public testimony on memorandum 070? Seeing none, is there any board discussion? Seeing no board discussion, board members please vote. And that memorandum 070 passes unanimously with 7 yeas.
I move to approve ASD Memorandum Number 059 and authorize the superintendent to award a contract for the Aurora Elementary School Boiler Replacement Project to Consolidated Contracting and Engineering LLC for a total award amount of $896,896.
Second.
Is there any public testimony on memorandum 059? Seeing no public testimony, is there any board discussion? Seeing no board discussion, board members please vote. Memorandum 059 passes unanimously with 7 yeas.
I move to approve ASD Memorandum Number 060 and authorize the superintendent to award a contract for the Mears Middle School Roof Replacement Project to Roger Hickle Contracting Incorporated for a total award amount of $5,478,879.
Second.
Is there any public testimony on memorandum 060? Seeing no public testimony, is there any board discussion? Seeing no board discussion, board members please vote. Memorandum 060 passes unanimously with 7 yeas.
I move to approve ASD Memorandum Number 061, the selection of Envision Architecture as the designer of record for the multi-site security vestibule upgrade Group 1 project, and authorize the superintendent to enter into a contract with Envision for professional services in the amount of $631,962 for the purpose of design through construction administration, and the selection of McCool Carlson Green Architects as the designer of record for the multi-site security vestibule upgrade Group 2 project, and authorize the superintendent to enter into a contract with McCool Carlson Green Architects for professional services in the amount of $704,070 for the purpose of design through construction administration.
Second.
Is there any public testimony on memorandum 061? Seeing no public testimony, is there any board discussion? Seeing no board discussion, board members please vote. And that memorandum passes unanimously with 7 yeas.
I move to approve ASD Memorandum Number 064, revisions to the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget, and authorize a reallocation of $6,767,440 in spending authority within the Municipal Assembly approved upper limit of $885,858,600.
Second.
Is there any public testimony on memorandum 064? Seeing no public testimony, is there any board discussion? Yes, Ms. Hildy.
Could someone just clarify upper spending limit authority and what that means, as far as this is just moving funds within our already approved budget? Just make sure that.
Through the president to Member Hildy, I'll have Jim give a hit, but no, it's not just moving them. It's we received more money from the state, so our original budget to the city had a limit, and we're wanting to expand it, is my understanding.
That is correct. Through the president to Member Hildy, we're asking for an upper limit increase. That means we know we're getting additional money from the state because we had more intensive needs, we had more students, general ed, than we thought we were going to have. But our budget that you approved had an upper limit. So we're just trying to make sure that as we receive this into the general fund, that we have the authority to receive it. So we're shifting money that was available under grants that we didn't end up getting the money, and putting it in the appropriate place in order to actually have the money come in and have an authorized position.
Ms.
Is there any change to what the Assembly approved in the spring? I guess it's the upper spending limit authority that I don't fully understand. Just what it
I'll
means.
try another. So when we turned in a budget, they approve, and especially for tax purposes, their amount is in relation to what the state gives. So when we had more students than had expected, the state gives more money, but they had a limit on our budget, and that's how much money. Well, if we get more from the state, we just want that to go up.
So that was the heart of the issue, the tax component of it. Does this create new?
It's the permission to receive the money from the state.
We can't get an additional increase in the local at this point because it happened after the tax levies had been released, but we can get more money from the state.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying.
Ms. Mitchell?
I just wanted to say that I'm really pleased to see that there's some money being put in to support and mentor the SPED teachers and the TAs. I know that transition can be really challenging, and I've also heard that some of the substitutes really are feeling a need for some training and support, so I really appreciate seeing that in there.
So I have a question. When you talk about we're getting more money, but I see the transfer of 5.25 FTE teachers as the positions from pre-K budget to the elementary budget for positions already assigned, that's not additional money. We're just moving.
That portion is placing the authorization in the correct accounting line. As you can see, we did increase the number of special education staff, both support and education as a result, which was basically everything Cindy Anderson asked for. But we are trying to clean the other stuff up at the same time to avoid multiple memos that appear to be the same, but they're only somewhat related.
Okay, thank you. Any other board comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, board members, please vote. And memorandum 064 passes unanimously with 7 yeas.
I move to approve ASD memorandum number 065 and authorize the superintendent to prepare the Anchorage School District's fiscal year 2020-2021 preliminary financial plan and budget in accordance with the financial projections and budget guidance set forth in this memorandum.
Second. Is there any public testimony on memorandum 065? Seeing no public testimony, is there any board discussion? Mr. Donnelly?
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say that I'm concerned that on page 3, under key considerations to close the gap, there's it recognizes that extremely difficult choices on where to reduce staffing levels and create inefficiencies in non-personnel costs are what we're faced with, but there's this particular pro forma doesn't include any list of possible suggestions for how to accomplish that, and I would like that to be in here. So I understand it's going to be very difficult, and it would be helpful, I think, to the board if there were options being presented to start to
Through the
consider.
that's a great item to bring up, and this was the performer in regard to if it looked like last year. As we prepare the budget, and the budget that we will have prepared for you will have options for the board to look at. This is just basically setting the stage for this is the gap if we continue how we are already operating. When we bring back the preliminary budget, it will have, as stated in the finance, Jim reminded everyone again, your ideas that you're coming from, the information we're getting from the budget surveys, we're going to work with groups, take the input and then come up with a budget that's balanced, that most likely will have some changes due to the board's input and other input testimony that we hear. So those are forthcoming. The work just isn't done yet. I mean, we have ideas and things like that, but it's still part of the building of the budget process. The performa identified the delta.
Ms. Hildy?
Will the RFI for maybe perhaps innovative ways of looking at making changes in our district, my understanding was that would address or incorporate that concern in some way or take into account that's our reality. So we'll be getting that sometime before the budget or?
Through the president to Member Hildy, we had, I believe in the Board Connect, sent out some literature in regard to 4 days a week and year-round school, things like that, just the two specific that were asked. Are those the only innovations? I mean, there's other innovative ideas in regard to cost savings, but we sent out some literature on those, and they weren't necessarily directed to cost savings. But so we didn't know how deeply you wanted us to engage with the community to study that. I think I'm not sure of the date, but Dr. Stock found some literature to review for the board to move forward on that, and we put that in a Board Connect. Not sure if, I mean, we did not do a full structural analysis in regard to any of those items. We can do that. That can be our work, but the initial input wasn't that was not a next year, but it probably is a long-term consideration if that's how the board wanted to do. We can certainly, it was literally just another project to do. And so we went as far as the literature and then just shared that with the board.
Mr. Donnelly.
Thank you, Madam President. Just to identify that delta, the gap that we're currently faced with from this year's budget to next year's budget is being estimated at $19.57 million to maintain the same services as presented in FY 2019-20 budget.
So it is important for board members to get your input into Mr. Anderson so that we can take a look at that. I just have to mention too, I thought this was interesting, I put it in the board update, is my grandson who goes to Bear Valley in 6th grade came home and their whole class had a discussion on 4-day-a-week school and the pros and cons. So I thought that was pretty interesting that they're even talking about it. So any other board comments or questions? All right, board members, please vote. And memorandum 065 passes with 7 yeas.
I move to approve ASD memorandum number 071 and authorize the Anchorage School District to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Aquarian Charter School Academic Policy Committee.
Second.
Is there any public testimony on memorandum 071? Hearing no public testimony, is there any board discussion or comments? Ms. Hildy.
I just want to articulate a little bit of the details. Sometimes people don't hear, but it only goes through May. So, and it says up to $250,000 in if there was, some major failure. So this year, as I talked about, we need a plan for this winter. There is a plan for this winter, but this will expire in May, and ideally, we wouldn't wait until the expiration date to figure out what happens next. So our board needs to be thinking about that and make sure we can provide clarity so the excellent work can continue happening there without interruption.
I did have a question. I didn't see in there, maybe I just missed it. Are they paying rent? No. Okay. So just, okay. And the reason this is up in May, is that when their charter gets renewed? No.
This contract.
Oh, okay, okay.
The guidance that the administration received from the board to develop an agreement that would sustain through the winter period,
Okay.
and that's what this.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that reminder, yeah. All right. Any other comments? Mr. Donnelly?
So Thank you, Madam President. Just the bottom line here is that Aquarian Charter would be responsible for up to $250,000 of emergency repairs during this period within term of the agreement.
Yeah, I read that also. I was just curious about Brent because I didn't see it in there. But, all right, any other board member comments or questions? Hearing none, board members, please vote. And memorandum 071 passes unanimously with 7 yeas. Okay, at this point, we're in non-action items. Are there any non-action items that board members would like to pull? Well, if nobody's supposed to be up, I will. I'd like to pull memorandum 072. And did we give this, the waiving the school board policy, do we have a?
We'll keep the same.
Are we just using 075?
Oh,
And
yeah.
pull 075? And also, I don't see a memorandum here, but resolutions of Anchorage municipality.
So you're pulling them off.
Yeah, I'm pulling them all. Sorry. Okay, so the first one is the 6-year capital improvement plan. And the reason I thought this was really important to talk about is we need to have a discussion on how the board feels about not having a bond next year. And we're going to be meeting with the Assembly on January 8th, I believe, for a work session. And that is something that they're very interested in. And so I thought this would be a good time to have a discussion on that, on the pros and cons and what board members are thinking. Ms. Hildy?
I thank Member Marset for getting this on here because I do think clarity is definitely needed. I've been very eager to do multi-year bonding and not super enthusiastic about an earthquake bond being the multi-year bond, but I'll say at this point I'm open to not having a bond next year. I'm not sure. I'll just say that's kind of where I'm at, so I would appreciate discussion here. My biggest concern continues to be our deferred maintenance. If we didn't have one in year 2, I would even maybe want to see a larger one in year 3 to make sure that the aggregate is not under bonding, because that is going to continue to create problems for our taxpayers. I mean, it simply costs more the more we delay, 6 times more, right? If we can catch repairs earlier. So I don't know what this might shake out to, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Mr. Donnelly?
Thank you, Madam President. As long as we're identifying individual board member priorities, my top priority is the deferred school safety projects to harden our schools against outside violent threats. So that is some time out in the 6-year plan as it exists now.
Ms. Michaelis?
Just as a question, I understand the question and the conversation that you're trying to have. My question is the approval of the CIP, if it does not have, a bond or an amount in year 2, that doesn't preclude us from doing one unless we come out somehow in a different way and say it, or is approval of the CIP with $0 in year 2, is that us absolutely saying no bonding? I mean, I'm trying to figure out where the line is actually drawn outside of the conversation. Where are we saying as a board yes or no to bonding next year?
Yes.
And I thought about that too, and what are we going to effectively communicate? And then I did the math on votes, and if it works out voting wise, it would be a very clear statement that if everybody agrees, then that is the board. Of course, you're not committing to it, but it's a public statement of saying this is what we plan to do next year. if the votes add up to that level of clarity. But that is a reality. I would like it to be, if we do the 6-year capital plan and it's not, if this is going to be a multi-year bond and next year zero bond, I would like us to really communicate that well and almost box us into it publicly with some sort of advertisement or, so even though you can't prevent, though they could do a big turnover or something, I guess, get all new school board, but some sort of long-term projection and say, not even just this year's multi-year bond, and we're going to do another one. We're going to take off a year and then we're going to come back and here's what we're doing and here's the math and why, and really get our community to start looking at the long-term planning of our bonds. That's really happening in other school districts where people aren't surprised about what's coming down the pipeline, and certainly the planning happens here, but the communication out to our community and just them being more receptive to that. It's just new, and this would be an opportunity to get the public used to thinking about in that way.
Dr. Bishop.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to really concur with the understanding of Member Hildy in regard to the outward look of this in our community. And it's no secret that there are a few projects that have strong feelings in our community, whether they be that a charter school is on the bond, whether we're moving forward with our own capital improvement in addition to earthquake. And then in regard to the earthquake, there is really some conflict in the community for which we're trying to invest money to have schools. This is going to be a difficult bond, and as Member Hildy stated, that public opinion behind it and that understanding is probably going to be a selling point for it. If we only put forward and didn't make hard decisions and have to make, decisions about a difficult bond and a difficult year and a difficult economy, I guess we just don't get to sign up for the easy stuff, right? The school board signs up for it all. Superintendent, administration, we're here for the long haul. And so this would, I'm letting you know from administration, that work on the marketing, we do see as a multi-year bond and not going back as a very strong point for the selling of this bond. And we believe that we can really share with our community, even given there's something about there that people like or don't like. But I think collectively as a community, they can get behind a 2-year bond that retires more money than we are asking over those 2 years. And I know that's a difficult thing to swallow when we have major maintenance out there that it hasn't been addressed, it's been deferred, but this is a time, I think, for that prudent planning, but collective support. Thank you.
Ms. Mitchell.
So I do agree that politically it makes sense to do that it would be easier to sell the bond. In looking at the SEAC report, these are people who've looked at this year in, year out, and when we look at them talking about that the ASD really should be investing around $80 million every year in deferred maintenance projects to keep from falling behind, with a policy of keeping bond proposals below retired debt. Even if we plow every bond dollar into deferred maintenance, we'll continue to fall behind. As a result, we have schools that are beginning to have alarming facility condition index numbers. According to the FCI figures, we're projected to have schools in such bad shape in 4 to 6 years that just repairing them would cost 3/4 as much as replacing them. So SEAC makes a few suggestions, and I love the idea, and I don't know if it's politically feasible, but certainly it's something we can talk about. It is kind of crazy to have ongoing major maintenance that we know is going to happen routinely bonded for. That's not really the way other places in the country do it, and voters don't like it, and so they talk about perhaps this crisis in bond debt reimbursement would be a good time to stop funding deferred maintenance through bonds. 70% of $80 million is $56 million. If the state government funded $56 million per year and allowed Anchorage to increase local school taxes by $24 million per year, we can correct the slow-moving disaster happening to our facilities. And they go on to talk about why this would be a good thing to propose. That's a heavy lift, but when we approved the bond level that we did, I think 2 meetings ago or 3 meetings ago, in my mind, I did not think, I absolutely favor multi-year bonds, and I'd like to see 3-year bonds because I think that gives us more predictability. I also would like to get out of a bonding cycle for this major routine maintenance. We in our homes don't go and take out a new mortgage when we replace a new roof. We set aside money, and that's the way you do things that you know are going to happen, that you anticipate. So I guess I understand politically why it makes sense to say this is going to be a 2-year bond. I think financially it's the wrong thing to do for the district. We are falling behind already, and to have a 2-year bond that is below, at that last meeting where we were talking about this, if I had fully realized that everybody was thinking this is going to be a 2-year bond, that we aren't going back next year and asking for an additional amount that would at least get us up to the level of what we're retiring in those 2 years, I think I would have argued to put more into this year's bond. I just don't think it's the fiscally prudent thing to do in the long run. I understand the state of our economy right now, but I don't think it's the right thing to do.
So I'm going to mention that this next year, taxpayers are going to be hit really hard with our bond, with the municipality's bond, and with the debt bond reimbursement that's not being covered. So they are going to be hit really hard. And even though I understand our situation with deferred maintenance, I think it would be a great idea to advocate up in Juneau for funds set aside for deferred maintenance. I'm not sure how that would go, but I'd certainly advocate for it. But I do think to get this bond to pass, because it is going to be so difficult, that I do think we need to not bond for the following year. And it's because the taxpayers are going to be hit so heavily, and because it's important that this bond get passed so that we can do our earthquake repairs. So it is very important. Any other board discussion? I do have one other thing I want to bring up with the capital planning. I met with Connie Yoshimura, who is a land developer.
Madam President, there might be Mr. Holloman on the line.
Oh, Mr. Holloman.
I'm sorry.
No, that's
yes, I was going to jump in real quick. I agree with Member Mitchell. If we had really planned this as a 2-year bond, I think we would have gone for something a little bit bigger. And there's a little bit of a problem with trying to predict what the state may do in the coming year. I think we do need to make a decision and say one way or the other, but I do think we've got at least a little bit of time on into maybe mid-January before we have to make that decision. But we kind of caught ourselves in a tight spot. A year off is a hard thing to predict, so I think we need to be ready to go either way. But I also agree that we need to tell the public what we're going to do for certain. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holloman. If there's nothing else, I'd like to share with you what I learned from Connie Yoshimura, who's a land developer and is responsible for several housing developments in our city and in Eagle River. And currently, we are over capacity, I believe, at Kincaid and Sand Lake and possibly Bayshore, I'm not sure. But there is a 40-acre lot on Kincaid, off of Kincaid there, close to where West Park is now, that is being surveyed for the building of, could be up to 120 homes. There's also the 42 lots that are going to be under construction here in the next year. Those are going to be single-family homes that are going to be smaller lots, so they'll be more affordable. Heatherwood, the subdivision over there, has 24 more lots. Sonoma Glen, which is across the way from West Park, is expanding. They have plans to expand 42 lots also. And because this is a 6-year capital plan, we have to, if we were to think about building another school in that area, it's something we need to address now, given this information and the growth in that area. What I would like to recommend to this board too, and we can bring it up in new business, is I think we need to address boundaries and do it district-wide to see where we're at and what we can do to alleviate some of this overcrowding, because new schools are very expensive. If we need to do that, that's one thing, but if changing boundaries might help with this, then that might be something else that we consider. But I wanted to bring this up during this 6-year capital planning because it could impact our 6-year plan. Ms. Hildy?
I just want to, I mean, it's still about this, but a comment along those veins. Last year, I remember going through this and popped up the college town I went to. They passed their giant bond. It was a bond where they said we're not going to come back for 10 years. It's a 3-year bond, but they weren't going to come back for 10 years. And part of the planning was not based on overcrowding, but it was based on projections. And they said, we're looking at our projections, and we see that we're going to need a new school. That is an attitude, and this is conservative. It's a dry college town, conservative, right? But they said, let's plan for what's coming. Let's look at the numbers. Let's think about it, instead of getting us into these. And when we have deferred maintenance, I don't know how to do both, I guess. We do a little bit here and a little bit there. It's a multifaceted approach, but I agree with Member Marcet in that we need to look at the numbers and not wait until the problems come up, but plan well for kids, because I want it to be ready for kids and not have them bouncing around to portables and new schools and disrupting their education.
So one of the things that was shared with me is at community council meetings, they are not in favor of these new developments because there's not room in the schools. So that is impeding progress within our city also. So it is important that we address these issues. So I'll propose something during new business, but I just wanted to share that with you because I think it will be something we need to think about and start looking at and planning. Ms. Mitchell.
And another piece of that, in addition to the southwest part of Anchorage, is Eagle River.
Mm-hmm.
That development is imminent as well. So as much as people, might like the idea of combining some schools, it would be a very, very short-term solution. And in a few years, we'd find ourselves very overcrowded, I think, in that area.
And that is something that Connie Yoshimura shared with me too, which I already know, but that the growth areas are Sand Lake, Kincaid, that area, and Eagle River is where our growth is going to be in our housing market. So just wanted to share that information with you guys so you would have what I have. And then I think the second item here is let's talk about the waiving of the board policy on use of apprentices for FEMA reimbursed projects.
I think it was my motion.
Mm-hmm.
So even though there were some legitimate procedural errors in getting it on tonight's agenda, I feel that it's necessary for us to have a conversation about it, and because it's important. I don't know all that there is to know, but I think we need to keep it in our focus and probably be a little bit as expedient as we can be to make a decision. So that's why I put it back on the agenda, because it needs to be there, my opinion.
Ms. Hildy?
I appreciate the public notice opportunity, and I think that's always, if we can make it work, that's always the better plan. So that's good, and we'll have people opportunity to email or call or come and testify next board meeting. But I still, we did our pro forma, we approved it. Part of it is 2 FTE for procurement officers for administrative positions. And while the details of this don't change that. So we talk about we want counselors for schools, we're going to make these hard budget choices, but it's just a limited pool of money. And if we put it over here to support this policy, it's a nice policy, but we've already seen these problems come up here. But at the end of the day, it's still a money going to one area and not going into the school. And so I hope we'll take the opportunity to consider what is the best thing for our students. A lot of good things possible, but we have limited money on what we can do, and so that'll be something I bring up at the next board meeting.
I too appreciate the time to digest this a little more. Not that I don't trust ASD and what they provided to us, but I would like the opportunity and give everyone else the opportunity to digest this a little bit further before we vote on it. Ms. Bellamy.
I have a question for administration. What is the impact of the extra time? I mean, is it possible to stop the wheels that are turning?
Through the president, I think I would request that Mr. Whiting speak to the specifics of the procurement process and what the timing implications would be.
Thank you.
Thank you to the board, through the board president, to Member Bellamy. Currently, with the East High School project that we have that was solicited on the 12th of December, that would be the project affected by the delay. We've reviewed the portion of that project and that there are some long lead items, structural steel in that project. So potentially, if the project were delayed, there's potential that it could affect the critical path, schedule of that project if we were having issues with the, getting the steel to the site.
Yeah, may I, I'm sorry, my understanding of your question was the impact on staff. Was that the basis?
Actually, I kind of want both.
Okay.
Impact to the process and impact to, which is the staff, I guess, and impact at the school. I mean, I'm assuming that the school is just fine. It just needs to have this work done. I mean, there's no safety issue at the school. So if we had to delay, I just want to know what would be the impact to the bid process, because you said it's already out there, and then to whatever other processes that you have to give attention to. So I think I meant it all.
Through the board president to Member Bellamy, yes, the process would be we'd have to issue an addendum to the solicitation. Well, if there is a change, if we are waiting for a period of time and there is no change, waiting for a decision, we would just have to extend the time to receive bids. Mm-hmm. When we do extend the time to receive bids, typically the potential offers would ask us for, we would be looking at more time, and so the impact to staff would be, we would just be kind of waiting for the understanding of, are we going to make a change on earthquake projects? If so, what it is, or are we not going to? So really there will not be an impact on staff waiting for the board's decision. The impact could be potentially if there were differing decisions.
Follow up. Okay. Any other discussion? Thank you, Mr. Whiting. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Almost forgot what it is. So you can put an addendum or amend the bid that's already out there, or the request for the East High job. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Yes, Ms. Michaelis.
2 questions. One, do we have any other earthquake-related bids getting ready to go out, or have those been put on hold until the board takes action on this memo?
Through the board president to Member Michaelis, we have looked at a schedule from CP&C. We have 7 projects, some of which you approved tonight, that are non-earthquake in the work, that are in process. And then following that, we do have other earthquake projects that are queuing up to be issued. So we would like to know, a decision would help us understand which direction we're going in. As I stated with the East project, that is the project that is on the street currently. So we would Our real risk is that the longer it takes to get a decision, it could affect our construction schedule for the East High School project.
Okay. And then one other question, and I don't know that it's to you or maybe to the superintendent. There's been a lot of information, and I think we're all kind of out there doing our research, as swiftly as possible. And it sounds like there's legal opinion or legal aspects of this. At what point should we as a board or as a district either get something that either supports or opposes PDAC, something that gives us more confidence in this decision from a legal aspect and the risk management aspect of it? Is that something that we should consider, that we apparently now have 3 weeks to do? Or should we just take the memo and the information hunt as it is?
Board members, I'm asking you to weigh in on this. Ms. Hildy.
I would appreciate legal review of it and the potential implications for the risk of not getting those funds.
Mr. Donnelly?
Well, I have a lot of unanswered questions. I would like to see if there's any examples of any school district that was denied FEMA funding because they had an apprentice policy. We don't know of any examples of that ever happening. I'd like to have an analysis that didn't say it was not a legal opinion and did not speak for FEMA. Something much more definitive than that before we make a decision. I'd like to know how much the projected premium costs of earthquake insurance required by FEMA are in relation to individual projects, because I think we should engage in a cost-benefit analysis there also, so that the apprentice policy might not even be an issue if the cost of the earthquake insurance is prohibitive over the long run. Those are all things I'd want answers on before the board made a decision like this.
Madam President, if I might, if those questions could be provided to you and then shared, we could work with our council. We do that quite often. I mean, just so you know, when we have a question, even in regard to our present policies, we can, call our council. And so the difference between just advice and how should we proceed to a full legal review, those are, two different things. But given your questions, that would let us know the depth of the information that you would desire back to make your decisions. So if those are shared, they can then, all the information could be shared back with the board. Okay. That's a good idea to get them into us.
So if board members will get those questions, I'll just have you send them to Katie so that we can distribute those and get those answers. Any other discussion?
I just want to.
Yes, Ms. Miller.
Just say that I do sense that the staff has a sense of urgency, and I want to respect that, because I definitely don't want us to do anything that would jeopardize reimbursement. But at the same time, I do think if we could slow down and give people a little bit of voice and then get our questions answered, I think we can get where we need to be.
Okay. The next thing that was pulled was actually the resolution of the Anchorage municipality adopting the climate change action plan. Was everyone able to read that? What they're wanting is either for us to write our own resolution or to support this one. Any discussion? Ms. Mitchell, go ahead and go first, and then I'll.
I was just going to say, I am happy with either way. I'm happy to support theirs, or I'm happy to write our own. I don't know if anybody else has a feeling that we need to write our own, or.
Ms. Michaelis?
Until I see what our own resolution might look like, I guess one of my questions is, I'm always going to want to tie it back to the dollars and what's going to come out of, you know, a classroom or something like that. And so I would be hesitant to support anything, even with good intention, unless I know, you know, what the cost or, you know, estimated cost down the pipeline or something like that is going to be towards, you know, supporting something like this.
Ms. Bellamy?
Just ditto on what Member Vakela said. I don't know what it'll cost, but at the same time, I support the overall intent, but I would like more on the impact of it for ASD. Or we do our own.
Right. And I would think if we wrote something, I mean, we already do a lot when we go into our schools with lighting and energy efficiencies. I mean, we can just say that, you know, we continue to do something like that. But, and the fact that we are looking at solar energy or whatever, that we're looking at it. It doesn't mean we're going to do it, but that we will look into it. Yes, Ms. Helding.
I don't want to write a resolution.
I know you don't.
But the reasoning is that one, I don't like them, but two, we are to do things that advance our board goals. Everything we do needs to be able to point to what are we doing to stay focused on our goals, especially as we go into our new strategic planning period. I hope this board will commit to saying there are so many nice things out there that you can do, but if we don't work our goals, we aren't going to move our students to where we want to see them. So lots of nice things you can do. Part of strategic planning and having goals is what you're not going to do. All those little minutes add up, you know, what are the costs of it? We're taking all that time. If it's not part of our goals, then we don't do it. And that's a choice we can make, and we can say we're going to be laser focused on moving our students forward.
And we don't have a memorandum on this. I don't know that, you know, if the board wanted to just say, we don't want to do it, we don't want to support it. I mean, we could do that now, and I can let them know, unless you guys want to take it the next step and vote on it.
Can it go to governance?
Pardon?
Sorry. Can we just send it back, send it to governance to just look at it? Because I know there is a revision to our policy sitting now in governance.
Right. Well,
I mean, there's not
I don't know if there's a timeline on this of what the assembly was expecting from us, but we can certainly do that. But again, it's taking time away from important things that we're trying to accomplish within our district. So I guess I would want board members' opinion on whether we should move this forward, or if we should say, you know, we're already doing these things, we don't feel a resolution is necessary. Ms. Bellamy.
I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I think that, and I agree with being focused in our efforts and focused on our goals for kids. But we are partners with the assembly, and I think if they gave us a request, the least we can do is at least give it a look at it. In light of, because we already know we have a policy sitting, Andy has a policy sitting in governance already. I'm only suggesting that we give it a little bit more thought. We may still not do it. But at the same time, I just think we need to share what we're doing, if nothing else, and not just brush. I don't think we should treat it as lightly as saying, no, we're not going to do it.
Ms. Helding.
I agree with Member Bellamy's reasoning on if, you know, we're partners with this assembly and even just respectful. I don't know that this came from the assembly, just I think one assembly member asked the board to consider it. So I think that is a little bit different than saying we want to make a formal request to the school board. I'm pretty sure it was just one person. So I'm not sure on that, but I think that is a difference. Certainly if the entire assembly said, this is important to us, we want you to, you know, let's make this a priority, we want to talk about it, that's a different thing to me.
So at the top of the memo, it has Rivera, LaFrance, Constant, Dunbar, Peterson, Quinn Davidson, and Mayor Berkowitz.
That's the assembly's memo though, isn't it? Not a request to the Anchorage School Board.
So the request was sent to us by Felix Rivera. But as chair, maybe it's not clear whether he's sending it as chair of the assembly.
So it was my understanding that it was sent by the assembly.
That was my understanding too, but yes. Ms. Mitchell.
And my understanding too is that it was sent by the Assembly, but it's certainly something we can clarify. I completely agree that we need to stay laser focused on our students. That is the mission of the district. However, we own 8 million square feet of, is that right, Dr. Bishop?
We don't own it.
We occupy 8 million square
Property
feet of,
managers, yeah.
right, but we're the ones who determine how it gets used, how it gets updated.
2 million. Was it 2 million? 2 million?
7.8 million square
7.8
feet.
million, okay.
Okay,
2
sorry,
billion.
I was off by 200,000 square
And
feet.
The 2 comes
I
from the $2
apologize.
billion of value.
We have, right, $2 billion worth of value, 7.8 million square feet of property. That is a lot of carbon footprint. That is a lot of parking lot space. That's a lot of, pardon me? Yeah, I mean, I think it would be immoral for us to not address this in some way. Climate change is, in my opinion, one of the greatest issues facing us, and is it the mission of the district? No, but it certainly is a business that we are in. We are in property management, and I think it is, I think it's a moral imperative for us to look at this.
Well, my understanding is we are looking at this after the first year as a board. We put that on our RFI to take a look at this and to do a study on this and see what the feasibility is of doing solar energy. So I think we are going to address it. But with everything that's going on, I believe it was after the first year. Ms. Hildy.
Thank you. And I'll agree with Member Mitchell that it is a lot. That is the whole point of it. It is a lot. And if we want to make it one of our strategic goals, then we need to make it one of our strategic goals. But if we're not, then we need to work our goals because it is a lot. So if we're going to start looking at that, we're going to not be doing other things. And that's just something we need to be open and own. What are we going to do and what are we not going to focus on? We just have to choose and make that part of the public process and commit to it. And then if it's that important and we want to make that the priority, then everything we do can support those goals. But it has to fit in with our, right now, Destination 2020, and then whatever we're going to do. So maybe that comes up in the discussion part of our strategic planning. But if it's not in there, then I don't want to do it. I want to work our goals so that our students will improve.
All right. I haven't come to any conclusion here. Are we sending this to governance, or are we not moving forward with it? Just kind of.
What do you need, a motion to send it?
Well, we don't vote on this. It's kind of like a straw poll or whatever. So how many would like to move this to governance? How many would like to? Andy, are you there?
Andy, can you hear?
I'm here.
They wanted to know your opinion on moving this memo to governance or not.
Say yes.
Governance is always happy to get more stuff.
Okay, so that's 3. How many would like to just respond and say we are doing this and we are looking at this after the first of the year? After the first year, we are right. Here we are. Yeah. Michaelis? Oh.
So she abstained.
Well, that's 3-3, so.
No action.
No action. All right. Well, we'll talk about it again then. Okay, I have one other thing on here. We did receive notice from Teamsters Local 959. Notice to employer, correct collective bargaining agreement opening. Pursuant to the terms of our current collective bargaining agreement, kindly accept this as sufficient notification of Teamsters Local Union number 959's desire to open the collective bargaining agreement for the purposes of review and or amending all articles, appendixes, supplements, addenda, and or letters of understanding of such agreement. Teamsters Local Union number 959 will be negotiating a collective bargaining agreement with your company that may affect area and industrial standards as well as other Teamster members. The Public Services Division affiliated with the International Brotherhood of Teamsters and Joint Council of Teamsters number 28 have a constitutional responsibility to assure that their affiliates preserve and protect area and industrial standards and not take any action that adversely affects the interests of any Teamster members. Consequently, any proposed collective bargaining agreement with your company must be reviewed and approved by Joint Council of Teamsters number 28 and the International Brotherhood of Teamsters Trade Division prior to being submitted to affected members for ratification. This approval process shall not delay reaching an appropriate agreement. So this is official. It says, this is official notification that the Teamsters Local 959 would like to move into bargaining. So noted. And Matt, that's your okay.
Yes, I believe this was an effort on behalf of the Teamsters Local to meet the intent of the board policy, and through correspondence with the board secretary and to President Marcet, this was viewed to be sufficient notice.
Yes. Okay. Now we are going to go to new business. Do we have any new business? Mr. Donnelly.
I just want to ask the superintendent to make best effort to really balance whatever committee is going to be appointed to review the math curriculum that'll come back to the board and make recommendations regarding math curriculum. I'd really like it to not be all folks that are supporting the existing curriculum, but be very much people who are objective and will be neutral about it and can really consider, possible changes and going to other alternatives.
Through the president to Member Dunley, the current math program is going away. So even if they were supportive of it, there's not a chance that we could purchase it. But there is established already a committee. Member Knutson, we shared the information last Board Connect. Member Hildy attended. And it's a diverse group. It's through we created new processes to really take a look at curricula that will meet standards and move forward. I don't know the outcome of that. I'm not involved either, but we could do a little mini report on that sometime, or maybe Member Hildy can just speak to it.
It was wonderful. It was almost, 6-7 hours of just math, which was fabulous. And it was K through 8th grade, so that it was divided into primary, intermediate, and middle school teachers bouncing around, reviewing different curriculums. I heard things like spiraling, which is in the math curriculum you like, and there were some spiraling aspects in different things they were looking at. I really listened as I walked around. I sat with some, but then I wanted to hear what they were talking about, what kind of questions, and it was extraordinarily rigorous and professional. I mean, they weren't just looking to rubber stamp something. These are the people who are having to teach whatever it comes down to, and very personal investment in it. So I heard really good questions, very much like, what are our other options? What if we don't like this one? What happens? What is that going to look like? A big concern of mine was did we say no to some stuff because it cost too much? And no, that wasn't a limiting factor at this point. That would certainly be a board consideration, but it's really looking at what is the best for the needs of our district to get our students. And our district is different. It's very different if you have a homogeneous student population versus high transient rate. And if we want kids to stay in the same school so we can do different kinds of curriculum, that could be a board goal. But the questions I heard were rigorous and very discerning, as maybe you would be if somebody was saying, you're going to have to do this. All right, let me see if I really like this. So I was very impressed. And they're going to meet again. So this month, they're going to test some different curriculums. Those teachers are just going to run with it after the break. They're going to look at them over the break and a couple pilots in all the different grade levels so they can see what was it like teaching these different curriculums. They did all the pros and cons, looking at what's good about this one, what's not good about that one, and they'll come back at the end of January with saying this is kind of how it worked out for our students. And I thought it was a very good process so far. I was very impressed by what I saw, and it was really a lot of control into the hands of the educators in the decision making.
So is sex and math one of the ones they're going to do pilot experiments with?
Oh, so I asked about sex and math specifically, and one of the issues is I said, what is the source of the ones we're looking at? And it's from a ed report that says which one meets your standards. So district-wide, meeting those standards has to check the boxes. So I personally looked up Saxon to see where it was at, and it, whatever those are, it didn't hit those points of it. We know that it's effective in homogeneous schools, and that it's an excellent program, but it isn't. I won't say it's not being considered at all, because certainly the teacher said, well, what if we don't like these? Can we look at something else? So there's still that freedom to make recommendations, but it's not one of the ones being piloted through that curriculum process.
Mr. Donnelly?
So that's very disappointing to me. We have 3 schools in our district now that are utilizing Saxon. They are top performers, and my research on Saxon Math is it's Common Core compliant, and so I don't understand what the arguments are for it not even being considered in this process.
I'll just say that's one of my suggestions, that the committee will be able to answer that question, because I anticipated that question. So I'm sure that that will be fleshed out at some point.
Yes,
sorry, I'm just super disappointed in that. Very, very disappointed. Given the amazing results of the 3 schools that we got, talk about a pilot program. We've got a pilot program for the last 5 years that shows outstanding results with Saxon Math. That it's not even being considered by this committee. That's what I was afraid was going to happen, Madam Superintendent. That was one of my concerns about the structure of this committee and who's on it.
Through the President to Member Donnelly, I heard your concern, and I wanted to let you know that the professionals that are on this committee, I'm confident, as is Member Hildy, that the professionals who are math professionals can make a recommendation to me. I believe the process is fair, the research is sound. I want to let you know, I was a Saxon Math teacher. I was a principal of a Saxon Math school. Even as the superintendent of this district, I do not get to unilaterally make any type of decision whether I like it or not. Those items and my teaching happened before any standards were renewed. I don't have the most current information. However, the people who are the experts in our district, you hire the best people to do business, from teachers all the way up the system. And they will bring a recommendation. And then at that time, we can take a look at it. And like Member Hildy said, if it needs to, go back to the table, it'll go back to the table. But I believe that we trust the process that involves the people who are the experts in it.
But if the process isn't even going to consider fairly Saxon Math, when we have 3 schools that are excelling, utilizing it, and Dr. Stock's assessment of comparison with 3 other of our top performing schools was so positive as far as those schools being successful with Saxon Math, it's very discouraging that they're not even going to consider it.
And through the President, just one last thing. Initially, the math that comes out of Saxon by middle school, he did share in his presentation, by middle school, those differences level out. So there is a difference in the structure of the programs. Saxon Math was considered. It went through the review of the research. So it wasn't just we're never going to consider it. It actually did, and it didn't make one of the top 3. It was reviewed. It just didn't make the pilot section, because I specifically asked it to be considered in following up from the board ask.
Well, this is exactly what I was afraid of was going to happen with this committee process. Exactly. And I'm very concerned about this. And I just don't think that, I think there's tremendous public support for considering Saxon Math, and this committee should broaden its review and include that as one of the candidates for being considered.
Ms. Hildy?
I'll just say a final statement. I think anytime that we have something we like and we're used to and we see good results with in one setting or even a couple settings, it's tempting to say, that's great, we should do that everywhere. That's not analytically sound in my judgment. you need to take a holistic approach across the whole district. What is going to make sense for 47,000 students? And it might not be what works in some spots of the district. So I'm confident in what I've seen of the process, and I'll continue to watch it. I think asking questions is good, but just cherry picking ideas that that we're comfortable with, or that we have a few points. I don't want to cherry picking. I'm not trying to be dismissive of you. It's an excellent program and it's working well, but that doesn't mean that it works well everywhere, and that's why you have a review process.
Mr. Donnelly?
But that doesn't mean the review process should exclude it from the pilot program and exclude it from consideration when it's proven so successful in our district in at least 3 schools already. There's no other alternative curriculum out there like this that's been proven in 3 schools to be super successful. I think it's really concerning that it's not being considered by this committee already this early in the process. It doesn't, just because you don't say, well, this is what we're going to do, cherry pick it out, doesn't mean you should exclude it from entire consideration already so early. This is super concerning.
I think my comment would be on that. The 3 schools that are using this, Mr. Donnelly, are what schools?
Birchwood ABC, Northern Lights ABC, and Eagle Academy, to my knowledge. There might be others.
So those are high-performing schools. They're not Title I schools. I think we have to look at our students as a whole, and I'm not saying that that program, it works for students that, have probably more support for their programs, but if you're looking at Title I schools, we have to look at programs that are going to meet their needs too. And I am confident that the committee is not just they see the 3 successful schools, which will continue to do Saxon Math because they have that priority to do that, or that authorization to do that. But we have so many other students that we have to make sure that the math program we're putting in place is meeting their needs. And just because we have 3 schools that have high-performing students doesn't mean that that's going to work for all of our other students. So I'm confident in the process. Ms. Hildy?
And I'll just add, I was just looking at our peaks numbers on a map to see who had the highest, who was the green light, and it wasn't just people using that curriculum. The people who had the highest scores, I don't want to say the name, but I'm pretty sure it was 2 South Sides I saw, they had little green lights on them, and that they weren't using that math curriculum. It's not exclusive to excellence. There are great math instruction happening, and that is what I maintain, that it's not the curriculum itself that determines how well students are. If you give me a room of 30 kids, I'm going to get them to where they need to be, whatever, you just get the information into the child, and the curriculum is a tool you use for it. But at the heart of it is having excellent teachers able to teach that curriculum.
I think a real important additional component is the ability of parents to relate to their kids doing their homework. Saxon Math adds a component where parents can sit down with their kids, unlike Go Math, and understand it and work with them and build that family unit stronger and build that participation in parents in their kids' schoolwork also. And I don't know, I'm shocked that that wasn't considered as essential as other components by this committee already, because it's a huge advantage to Saxon Math because parents understand it.
Through the president, and actually I would concur with Member Donnelly that it is not only user-friendly for parents, it's also user-friendly for teachers. And I do believe that, I'd have to check with Aquarian parents. I think Aquarian uses Saxon as well. But we do have quite a few schools that have success in math and then continue to have success in math. But just to correct the record, I think that is one of the highlights, as you said.
We did put out there and I believe I saw this too, the requirements of what they're looking for in each program as they go through it. Okay. And I'm sure one of those is parent.
It's really in the board.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yes, Ms. Bellamy.
I just want to say I look forward to the committee's report. These people, if you've not ever worked on a review committee, it's really grueling work. And I don't want them, I would hate for them to feel diminished before they even make a recommendation. So I look forward to the report.
Okay. All right. So is there any other new business? I am not sure if I should bring this up under new business or, well, we have one thing to the calendar. You guys received the calendars with the conflicts with the assembly.
Oh, yeah.
And do we want to change any of those dates? I think we have 2 dates that we would have to change.
Okay.
We'd probably have to vote on this, so to change our board meeting dates.
So which ones? The May? I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Ms. Hildy?
I thought they said they were going to look at their May calendar because you have all the graduation. Maybe I'm confused. I thought somebody had said maybe they could look at.
Yeah, they
theirs.
can't change theirs, so,
Oh, okay. I can reach out to Barbara to confirm.
yeah.
Well, I find moving the May ones, as long as it doesn't conflict with graduations, could even be a
Does it,
Wednesday.
is there a conflict with our budget, or, I mean, I know it's only 2 more meetings, but,
I believe that the graduation is the big 8 or the week of the 11th.
right,
Potentially you could move it to a different day.
during the week. So you could potentially move it to a different day during the week if we wanted to move it back to Monday that month. Is there anything on their agenda during that time that would?
Confirm with Barbara. I can't remember what she said.
Okay. So maybe we will put this on the agenda for next meeting. So we'll have more information if it's even pertinent that we move this, if there's reasons to do that, or whatever we want to do. But for 2 meetings, if it doesn't, we've already missed, had like tonight, for instance. So I don't think 2 more meetings in May will make a big difference unless there's something going on that we need to be there for. So if you'll find out that information, Katie, and we'll put it on the agenda for next time. So the other thing is, I don't know if this would be new business or if it would be an RFI. And I don't know that I'm requesting information, but what I would like to do is this board to ask for, maybe I am requesting information, for this board to ask for, to look at the district beginning a boundary study. And, yes, Mr. Donnelly? Okay, so what we can do, we could put it on the next agenda for conversation, but I guess my question is that new business, that's RFI, or is that something I would request on a regular agenda item for us to vote on whether we want to do that? But I do think it's important, and we could set a timeline for that. Ms. Michaelis?
Is there a cost component? Is this an internal thing or an external kind of study? And then, to find out what time would be taken to do it, when an appropriate time for the administration to be able to do it. And like you say, a scope of anticipation of when it would come back and how it would affect, any potential or future decisions, or, for us and for, families, if anything were
Right.
just a.
So it's not something that I'm asking to be done like tomorrow. There's no way. But I do think this is something we've been talking about for a long time, and we need to do a district-wide boundary study. I would leave that up to the district on how they would want to conduct that, and they could come back and let us know, and the timeline and that sort of thing. But I do think it's important that we have that discussion as a board. We do request that. Ms. Mitchell?
I support that also. I've heard from a lot of community councils that people are just wondering whether, I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. So I think having at least a review of what might be possible would be a good community conversation.
And I would just say, given the growth in the south part of Anchorage, I think it's very important to see if we could do something with our demographics, with our schools and attendance, or do we actually need to look at a new school in that area? So, Dr. Bishop.
Madam President of the board, all due respect, this is just a big deal.
Yeah.
And so when the board asked me to do a school start time, I started with saying it's a big deal. Because it's emotional, it's community, people buy their homes. And as we move forward with the resources and the lack thereof at this level, I need your assistance in letting know, are we going to spend money on it outside, or what other types of things do we pull back on, or can we start in the summer kind of thing? Because it is absolutely needed. We have identified that. We can tell where there's overcrowded schools, and but it would move everybody similar to the school start time. So the communication and the marketing and everything, even to say we're even looking at it, is going to kind of raise concern, and so I just want that known, because that's a biggie. So
Yes, Ms. Margot Bellamy.
I agree. That was one of my worst experiences, is serving on the boundary committee years ago. And I don't know that we want to do that like right now. What I would like, though, is more information so that we can have the discussion. Like with zone exemptions, for example. I think we know who should be at a school but have zone exempted somewhere else, and what that looks like in terms of the whole district, not just one school. Because if we are we do things that allow schools to be overcrowded. I mean, our intent is good, but the impact could be overcrowded. So it may be, if we look at just some of those things that are very important to people, might be less emotional than changing the boundaries. So, that is, it's doable, and I agree it should be done. But with all that's on our plate right now, guys, I don't know. We got a hero here, a shero over there, but I don't know that she can handle all that.
It's just the emotion part. Right, and it will
very emotional.
It will be very emotional. I have no doubt of that, and we've been talking about it for a long time. And I think the last time we did a boundary, looked at boundaries, was 10 years ago or more. And I'm not saying this is going to be easy, but I don't think any of us took this job because it was going to be easy. And we have to look at what's best for our students. So I'm not saying right now, but I think that we do need to set a timeline, because we just keep pushing it down the road. And I would certainly defer to the superintendent on what that timeline might look like.
So what do you need tonight? Just a point of information.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up, and we can, Ms. Hildy.
I think it'd be good to put that in RFI just for a board connect information, but also if there's a way for it to, because it's emotional, but it's also an ongoing need, is there a cycle where we can say, every 10 years we do this, so nobody gets to be surprised, it kind of takes the heat off of it, and we say, this is a new cycle period we're going to start, and we're going to do it again in 10 years, and because we need to use our buildings efficiently.
Unexpected. Yeah, I agree with that. So that might be something we want to even look at in policy, to set that policy to look at it every 10 years. But I would think at this point then we could have Dr. Bishop come to us at a later time to give us a timeline, what they would recommend, and go from there. But I just don't want to put this off any longer.
Madam President, we can come with a project outline for the board to review. And additional information that's extant data that we just have. We do have the number of boundary exceptions, boundary intake, boundary out. So we can start publishing those for you to create kind of that knowledge around the issue.
Okay. Is there any final testimony? Is there anyone that would like to testify? Okay. So are there any comments? Yes, Mr. Donnelly.
I feel very strongly about this. Saxon Mass deserves a fair examination by this committee equal to any other curriculum that's out there. It's the only one that's been proven in this district right now. Right now it's being used and proven successful. I'm sure that 7 years ago, the group of experts that got together and saddled us with Go Math thought they were doing the right thing too. And they were all professional experts that we were supposed to defer to in their judgment. And I think they made a bad choice. Go Math has been a disaster. Parents don't relate to it. It's hurt families. It's hurt the ability of kids to relate, parents to relate to their kids' math in school. I don't want to see that happen again. Go Math was pushed on us by an expert committee. So I think one of the lessons is don't always just repeat the past if you want to do better. And for them to already have thrown away a proven winner that's already being proven in this district at this early point in this review is extremely troublesome to me. And I believe if it takes the board doing a sense or a motion to compel a fair consideration of Go Math, I'm going to pursue that because it's entitled to that in this process. And just because a bunch of people are experts has been proven not to be the only reliable way to get a decision for curriculum in this district.
Ms. Hildy?
I'd just like to make sure we're clear that this is not the only curriculum that students are having success with in our district. We have children who are excelling at math using Go Math. That the PEAKS results came out, those schools came out. It is not a bad curriculum. I don't understand. My children use it. Our school chose to use it. I do the homework with them every night. I don't find it challenging to do homework with them. I have concerns on how far behind Americans are in our math skills, and it's going to require a rigorous push forward. We are so far behind in math. We see that in adults not able, we have the basic accounting skills to do your budget, but you don't have the conceptual math skills to analyze your budget, right? That it's a rigorous math instruction, and it's going to be an uncomfortable change as we increase that, but just dismissing things because we aren't comfortable with them or don't know them is not a good reason. It needs to be rooted in research. What is going to be the best thing for students? What has been successful, but why has it been successful? Taking in the full analysis.
Okay, are there any comments? What? Oh. Is there any comments or from the school board administration in closing up or communications?
I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday and a Happy New Year.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Mitchell?
I just want to say those graduation results are fantastic. As I go around schools, people are doing such amazing work, and I really hope that everybody in the district gets a chance to rejuvenate and come back fresh for the kids and do more of the excellent work that's going on.
And of course, my thanks and kudos and gratitude and everything else go out to all our teachers out there that are working so hard, our principals, our TAs, everyone, and from everyone from whatever you're doing for the district. It's making us great, and it's getting us where we need to go. We appreciate it. Happy holidays. Miss. Is there a second?
Do your gavel.
Is there a
girl.
second?
Your last gavel for this year.
I said, is there a second?
Second.
Yeah. Adjourned for the year.